40 trillion gallons of water, ladies and gentlemen. What number is that, Diesel? That's a lot of water if you did not know. 40 trillion gallons of rain is exactly what fell. Think about that. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen, for just a second. In the southeast of the United States last week from Hurricane Helene, in a run-of-the-mill rainstorm that slashed right before it, right? We got rain, which didn't help those trees and everything that were already wet. An unheard amount of water that has stunned experts, and I've got one even better than that. The amount of water, Diesel, that fell in the upstate, or fell in the southeast rather, is enough to fill the Dallas Cowboys stadium not once, not twice, and I'm glad you asked, not 3 times, but 51,000 times. Think about that. Also, Lake Tahoe. I have no idea where Lake Tahoe is. I know it's a big lake.
Tahoe.
It's a big lake, Diesel, if you didn't know. It could have filled the entire lake. It's an astronomical amount of precipitation, and that's what hit the upstate this past weekend, enough to fill the Cowboys Stadium 51,000 times. And you know what? That's a lot of water. That's a lot of rain. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson on this Tuesday edition of the program. So good to be with you. Diesel, I said it yesterday. I'll probably say it again 100 times today. One step forward in the right direction. A lot of people still impacted in a negative way. A lot of people still without power, and many, many more up in Western Carolina, a lot worse off than you and I are. However, we are getting better one step at a time.
So you said 51,000 gallons of water?
That's correct.
How many more is 51,000 than the number of playoff wins the Dallas Cowboys have in the last 25 years? 50,996 more gallons than the Cowboys have playoff wins.
51,000 times you could have filled up the stadium. It was 40 trillion gallons of water. But funny, very funny. Very funny. I knew if I said that somebody out there, some Tolo out there would take a shot. 40 trillion gallons.
Than like Madcraft or JD or somebody.
Somebody. I mean, it's going to be somebody.
Can't let you go unscathed.
It's going to be someone. That's just part of it. But a lot of rainfall and a big show coming your way today. We will talk sports. We'll continue as the week goes on to get a little bit back to normalcy one day at a time. We'll talk Pete Rose today. If you didn't know, Pete Rose passed away last night. So sad. We'll talk Braves today. Also, we'll talk to Cary Johnson, the COO at Broad River Electric Cooperative. We talked to him on Friday. We'll also talk to Chuck Wright, the Spartanburg County Sheriff. We talked to Greenville Sheriff Hobart Lewis yesterday. And then a little Monday Night Football later in the program as well. So many ways for you to get in touch with the show. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Also, the phone lines. They're open right now. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. If you have been affected, as we did yesterday, we want to hear from you. Let us know how this storm has impacted you, your family, your friends, your loved ones. Diesel, I have a Facebook post that I want to read in just a few minutes from now that really puts this in perspective of how big this storm was. But any power over your way yet, Diesel?
No, not yet. A couple of neighborhoods around us have power. I keep seeing so many posts on social media complaining that our power's not back on, but our neighbors at the next housing development over, their power is on. Not realizing that this is not just a down the line scenario,
sure.
Right? The power lines that run down your street may not even actually feed your neighborhood. So they may go down, but you have power and other people don't.
Yeah.
And power lines in their neighborhood go down. So now you don't have power. So people just need to try your hardest. I get that it's now going on 4 days without power. I get that it's difficult to deal with, but you gotta have a little bit of realization that it's not always about you. Number one. Number two, there's a lot of people who have it worse off than you. Number three, these crews who have come in from all across the country. Texas, Arkansas, crews from Canada came down to work.
Yeah.
They are working their tails off. You don't realize how hard these guys are working. And, they have to start from the source, clear a down tree, get the lines back up and running, turn the power on. Then they move down the line, and they do it again and again and again and again and again until it gets to you. Then you'll get your lights back on.
On the YouTube stream where we're live on 3 different platforms, you can watch the show, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. DB says, hey, fellas, our power just came on 3 minutes ago. Let's go. That's good news, DB. Brian says, hey, guys, still cleaning up downtown Greenville. Appreciate you, Brian, for doing what you're doing. A lot of people still without power. I'm very fortunate to have mine still. Again, mine came on Saturday evening. Very, very fortunate. I know a lot of people are still without. But Diesel, I want to read something off of a North Carolina news outlet. And you and I hadn't talked about this yet because it's honestly hard to read. I'll only be able to read it one time. But, man, this post that I saw earlier today puts things in perspective. And I wanted to read it for our listeners out there. I wanted to share it because while we may think that, having power without a few days is an inconvenience, hear what Sam Perkins had to do. Diesel, this happened 1 hour away from where you and I sit. 1 hour. Sam Perkins shared his experience this morning. He hiked 11 miles. 11 miles. Do we realize, before I get to the rest of this, how far 11 miles is? So this article that was shared says Sam Perkins shared his experience of hiking 11 miles and 2,200 feet, Diesel, to check on his parents after Hurricane Helene hit the North Carolina mountains. He found them safe, but stranded due to the severely damaged roads and infrastructure. The area, known for its scenic views, is now filled with devastation, including destroyed homes and downed trees. Sam expressed his gratitude for finding his parents alive. Here's what the post said. My parents are okay, but completely trapped. Yesterday, I hiked 11 miles to check on them. Brian Spew coming. I'm still processing it all and was just locked in on go mode yesterday. Still not having heard from my parents in 48 hours. I was drowning in worry. My parents live in an absolute gem of the North Carolina mountains, the Little Switzerland, Spruce Pine, Burnsville area, halfway between Asheville and Boone. Under normal circumstances, it's pleasantly very isolated. Little did I know that up there, Helene had demolished roads, homes, and utility workers. This area is completely cut off from resources in every direction. I tried multiple routes to drive up, but had to settle on parking on the base of the road and hiking 11 miles to find my parents. Crews weren't even close to their house. I can't tell you how many falling roads and deep mudslides I had to cross. So many fallen trees. I met multiple people along the way trapped by devastation who had no access to any internet, any phones. In this part of the mountain, not only did water rise, it raged to tear up roads, earths, and homes. Then the winds have brought down the trees, which have made the disaster worse. He finishes off by saying, I'm still processing it all. I've never seen anything like it. Power's out for a couple of months. I cannot fathom how long it'll take DOT to repair the roads that hug the steep mountainsides. The steep part of their gravel road has been barricaded by trees and rushing water. It's just a waiting game now. If you are or know a family in the mountains, I feel for you. Know that crews are chipping away. Again, just over an hour from where we sit. Diesel, I wanted to share that post because it helps us keep in perspective of people who have it very far worse.
Yeah, was able to watch a little bit of television last night, and I really appreciate our Tolo Dan B, who graciously has allowed me to borrow a generator for a couple of days to get our refrigerator and our freezer running again. Again, I understand how fortunate we are to have not taken a ton of damage and to have been able to find ice to keep as much food safe as we possibly could. But we were able to turn the TV on for a couple of minutes last night to get a little bit more information. And, hearing people working in the mountains in North Carolina say the words, we've transitioned from a rescue effort to a recovery effort. That means we don't think we're going to find any more people alive.
Yeah.
We're trying to recover bodies.
Yeah.
That's where they are, and being able to catch a little bit of the story that's going on. It's not just happening to us. It's happening to the people in North Carolina. It's happening to the people in Tennessee. It's happening to the people in Northeast Georgia. I mean, we all got smacked really hard by this. So the people who are complaining that your power's not on, I get that it's a hardship. I'm not saying that it's not, but they're out there trying to recover bodies that they don't know that they'll ever find in other parts of this country, right? Just across the state line, just over the other state line in Tennessee, where it was far worse than what we got here in the upstate. So have a little bit of perspective, would you? Reach out to a neighbor. Reach out to a neighbor who has a generator. I mean, if you can't get a hold of one, reach out to somebody who has a long enough power cord and run a power cord to their refrigerator so that their food stays cold. Just go over and ask. It's shocking to me, Cole, how divided we are to the point where neighbors have generators and they won't go over and talk to the other neighbors and offer them a way to plug in and keep their food safe, or to turn their lights on, or to turn their stove on, or to turn their microwave on, anything, right? You won't even go talk to people. You won't even go ask for help. And they won't go across the fence line and offer help. So it's a tough time to watch. I know that there's a lot of people coming together, and I'm grateful for a lot of people who came together, but there's a lot of people who aren't doing that either.
We want to hear from you if you're out there and have some wise words, or just simply need someone to talk to. We're here for you, just continuing to bring some calm to the chaos. Diesel, what's fascinating right now is if you want to get from here to Asheville or Burnsville, which is just above Asheville where I read that post from, it would take 4 hours and 3 minutes right now to get to Asheville, which is normally an hour away. You'd have to go through Greenville, hit Highway 11, go up through Cullowhee, Silva, and then go east through Waynesville. It's just, this is complete devastation in Western North Carolina. And the fact that it's so close to us, man, that's what hit home for me and a lot of people.
And you were telling me downstairs, I don't know if you've gotten confirmation on this, and maybe you could go a little bit into this, that I-40 has been deleted off of Google Maps.
It has.
Sections of it have, because they're completely impassable. They're doing, I guess, what they can to keep people from traveling or attempting to travel those roads.
No, you're correct. I tweeted out about 2 hours ago, I-40 West has been taken off of Google Maps because it just simply doesn't exist right now. And that on its own, I mean, I don't know how many times you've driven I-40. I'm sure a good bit. Diesel, we were talking about it downstairs earlier. This is not going to be a quick turnaround. Like, what people don't understand is here in the upstate, who are impatient with their power, we can fix power poles here in a matter of days. You can't fix roads that have been damaged like that and communities in a matter of short years. It's going to take a very long time. I mean, I was sitting this morning thinking on the way here, Diesel, today's Tuesday. This thing happened Friday morning. I know a lot of people are still without power, but I find it fascinating. Maybe it's because I have such a small peewee brain, right? I find it fascinating that we can be this back to normal in only 4 days.
Yeah, it's we talked a little bit about it yesterday, and it's wild to think just how fragile our ecosystem is, our all of our systems are. But it's also amazing to think just how quickly Americans can rally and get things back up and running. I mean, if you relied strictly on the local power crews, the line crews, to get things back up and running, it would take months to get everybody squared away.
Sure.
But, we heard yesterday from a representative from Duke Power just about how many line crews from all over the country have made their way here. I mean, they don't know where to deploy to. So once Friday happens, then it takes probably minimum 24 hours, maybe 48, to assess what damage they can and then start moving pieces around logistically, saying, hey, you crew from Arkansas.
Yeah.
You drive to Travelers Rest, South Carolina. Okay, hey, you crew from Texas. You drive to Northeast Georgia. And all the hundreds of crews and hundreds of trucks that have made their way here. That takes time to rally that stuff here. But once they get here, Cole, once they can start getting trees off of lines, they can get lines put back up so quickly. And it's fascinating to see how quickly they can get lines put back up. So for the people who are mad that your neighbors have power but you don't, go talk to your neighbors. Maybe hang out. I know you're frustrated. I know you're tired. I know you're probably stinking because you haven't washed clothes in 5 days, but go talk to your neighbors, would you?
It's a good thing to do. And you're exactly right. It's you need times like this to come together. I saw a post on Facebook that someone shared earlier in the week, Diesel, about kids playing in the cul-de-sac. And I shared it and I said, man, this is what we used to do growing up, played basketball and, you know, people who skateboard. And it was just like, man, it brings you together, and sometimes devastation helps you understand that this is what we're for.
It's kind of an odd feeling, bringing it down to the micro level, being here in the building with other people in the building. That's an odd feeling. We haven't felt that since before COVID.
Right.
I remember almost everybody did their shows live from the studios before COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm talking across all of our radio stations. Well, then since then, it's gotten easier and easier to work remotely. And I'd say that's probably true for almost all industries. It's easier to work remotely. Well, situations like this force everyone to come back in and work locally here. So I'm seeing faces that I haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
And it's wild. It's like oh, wake up. This is how it should be.
Right.
We should have a bunch of people in the building. This should be a social experience here. And it's in ways it's bringing people back together.
We're going to hit a break, but first let's go to the phones where Rick wants to chime in. 844-326-3663. What's up, Rick?
Let me tell you, I kid around, but my brother works for Commission of Public Works in Greer. He has not slept in 3 days. That man's a saint. Kudos to all the commission people. You've made Greer wonderful and a good place to live, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you for the call, Rick. Appreciate you, man. It's
Appreciate
tough.
that, Rick.
I mean, Rick, is one that's usually cutting up and having fun, and you could hear it in his voice. And it's been tough for me this week as well. It's hard to talk about. It really is. When you read posts, it's a tough pill to swallow. So, Rick, we appreciate you calling in, and you're right. To everyone out there working, if you sit at home, Diesel, and I'm not encouraging to go out on the roads, but if you sit at home and just sit in your house all day, all weekend, you can't comprehend what's happened out here. I went to several rural areas over the past few days, and man, the rural areas right now, it's just complete devastation. So it's going to be a recovery process, and you know what? It's part of it, but we will get through it, and we will continue to help you along the way.
When we come back, Cole, another tragic day in sports. Pete Rose has passed away. Let's have the question. Let's have the conversation. Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Did Pete Rose even want to be in the Hall of Fame? We've got audio of Pete's wishes in that concern. We'll talk about it next on the Fan Upstate. Tragedy for sports fans. Pete Rose succumbed and passed away yesterday. And it was just an awful, awful situation. We've lost Pete Rose. We've lost Dikembe Mutombo, both over the past couple of days. It's sad, man.
Yeah.
You know, with Pete, you know, he was what, in his 80s, I think. So 83 years old. We kind of, expected it at any time. Didn't really expect it with Dikembe Mutombo. I didn't know that he had brain cancer. I didn't know that he was fighting that off. We're going to talk about Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame here in just a second, but let's go to the phone lines. Talk to John in Rock Hill, wants to talk about the storm. First of all, John, I hope you and yours and everyone is safe. I don't know what the condition of your home, your family is, but can you tell us first, John, how are you listening to us? You're in Rock Hill. I'm not sure that our signal reaches Rock Hill. How'd you find us?
Oh,
on YouTube.
Sorry about that, John. One more time.
Sorry. I'm able to watch y'all on YouTube.
Appreciate it,
fantastic. Fantastic. So how's everybody in your family doing? How are you?
Okay. So, yeah, actually, I do live outside of a small town in Rock Hill, just not far from Chester, South Carolina. It's called McConnell's. But anyway, well, Friday, here's my story real quick. It's just, I wake up Friday morning, I'm, supposed to go to work. And, I'm getting myself together and I, get my shirt and everything on and walk in the living room, and my parents, I still live with, say, my mom, I said, you should probably wait an hour to, go into Rock Hill. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And then the wind starts picking up. And then about 8 o'clock Friday morning is when we lost power. And unfortunately, diesel and coal, we only lost power. I mean, we were on the generator the whole day, pretty much. To, power the refrigerator and all that stuff, watch TV, get on the computer. We still had internet, actually. And we on the generator all day. And we only lost power from, I would say, 8 o'clock Friday morning to 8 o'clock Friday night.
Wow. That's
it kind of just put things in perspective, like y'all said. I was a little frustrated during the day. The power come back on. Like, I knew it would just take a little time. But, it kind of puts things in perspective the last couple of days. Just things, like y'all have been saying, there's people way worse off than probably you guys and me and where I live. And especially like in Asheville and Boone specifically, it's just, we only lost power for 12 hours. And, everyone enjoy the weekend. But I know there's people out there way worse off. And it's going to take a long time.
Really is.
Yeah. I wasn't alive during Hugo.
Yeah, I was 5 during Hugo, and my parents living in Hickory, it was still pretty strong by the time it made it up towards the Hickory area. And we had a lot of tall pine trees in our neighborhood, and I just remember thinking at 5 years old, one of these trees could come down on our house, and that would be a really bad situation. And a lot of people are unfortunately dealing with that. We talked about with the ground getting saturated and then high winds. It's a perfect storm to take trees over. Yeah.
Hey, well, look, man, continue to stay safe. We appreciate you listening, watching the show on YouTube and being a Tolo. And again, just stay safe out there.
Yeah, y'all too. All right.
Thanks, John. So we're happy for John, and we're grateful that John and his family were able to get out of this relatively unscathed. So, he's lucky there. And I hope that, any of our Tolos who have more than other Tolos,
that's right,
have the ability and the wherewithal and the desire to help people and help them get back on their feet.
And real quick, before we get to Pete Rose, Diesel, 982 chimes in on the text line, which you can do by texting 71307. Start your text with the fan, with the word fan. Texter says, my cousin has been doing lineman work for 40 years and been all over the country, and said this is the second worst he has ever seen, right behind Katrina. Wow, yeah, that's tough.
That's brutal.
That's tough, man.
That's brutal. Okay, so Pete Rose. Pete Rose passed away at the age of 83. Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? We're actually going to turn things around here and talk a little sports.
Sports.
Yeah, so it's been more than 30 years, almost 40 years since Pete Rose ended his professional playing career. He has been blackballed by Major League Baseball ever since. He has certainly not stopped talking about it. He has certainly not stopped sharing his opinions on baseball and about his situation being banned from Major League Baseball. He's taken a lot of shots at Major League Baseball as well. Here was one of Pete's final parting shots on Major League Baseball and whether or not he wanted to be in the Hall of Fame. Here's Pete.
I don't see much sense in putting me on the ballot after I die, because for a player to go into his or her Hall of Fame, it's more or less for your family and it's more or less for your fan base. And I'm big on both of those two things right there. And I know most of the people who rooted for me my whole career would love to see me in the Hall of Fame as a living player, not as someone that's 10 feet under. And I always thought about that. What good would it do my family if they put me in the Hall of Fame after I die? I can't think of anything good about that.
Man,
Yeah,
that's good stuff there.
that's pretty strong
right?
words, you know. And he said a lot there with
Sad.
with a lot of weight behind it without being antagonistic.
Yeah.
To Major League Baseball. He could have said, "Hey, you guys, you're doing this for you. You're not doing this for me. You're not doing this for my family. You're not doing this for Cincinnati Reds fans." And that's where my thought process goes. Would putting Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame now, waiting until he's passed away, would that be a black eye on Major League Baseball? Would that be seen? Will that be seen? Because I'm sure they probably will at some point. Will that be seen as a black eye against Major League Baseball? And I think yes, because Major League Baseball, if they wanted to, they could have said, all right, guys, Pete, we're going to wash our hands of this.
Sure.
We're going to forgive and forget. We're going to remember the type of player that you were, not the reason why we banned you from baseball. And we're going to put you in before you pass away so that you have that, you know that you're in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And doing this now seems like a PR move for Major League Baseball. It seems like them saying, all right, guys, so look how generous we are. Look how generous and nice we are. We now voted Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame. At this point, I don't know how the Rose family feels about it. I don't know how Reds fans feel about it, but I'd say don't. Just don't even bother. And certainly don't do this thing every year of will they, won't they, we're going to put him on the ballot but not vote him in. That might be the most tone-deaf, vindictive thing that the Major League Baseball sports writers could do.
I think it would be 110% pathetic for them to make that move now. And I think Pete Rose said it best in that audio that you just heard. I mean, that was – you said it, and it's strong. I mean, that was a strong piece of audio that was one of the last few things he said about him being in the Hall of Fame before he passed, Diesel. He's exactly right. Like, why do it now? Why wait until you're dead? That is absolutely pathetic. If the MLB did that, it would be a disgrace not only to Pete Rose, but to the MLB of waiting till the man dies to put him in the Hall of Fame. I absolutely agree with you. I know you and I a lot of times on this show debate and go back and forth, but no, I'm agreeing with you here. It would look pathetic. I hope and pray that the MLB don't do it. Should he be in there? In my opinion, he should be. I know everyone has an opinion on whether Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame or not. Did what he do and how he handled it hurt his chances? Of course. The way that he handled it, in my opinion, is what really got him. But I still think, Diesel, he should have been in there, but when he was alive, for him and his family to be able to witness it, and like he said, for his fans, but now that he's passed, it's absolutely passed. What is that noise? Do you hear that?
Yeah, that's a generator right outside of our studios. I thought I was hearing generators in my sleep.
I was like, what? I was looking around. I was trying not to say it, but what is that?
There's a huge like party bus that's wrapped in our old like radio name when Odyssey used to be radio.com. It's wrapped, so it's an old vehicle, and that wrap is easily 9 years old, 10 years old.
So is that generator powering us right now?
It's a big van. I don't know what's in the van, but it's towing one of those construction generators, one of those diesel generators. So that's how we're on the air.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like squirrel.
No,
what is that? No.
I asked our head engineer, Chris Evans. I asked, is that the replacement for the van that I ran into the parking garage in Atlanta?
Good one. I like it.
Yeah. Pete Rose by a player as a player, of course, there's no reason whatsoever for him to not be in the Hall of Fame. And maybe what maybe what Major League Baseball should have done, Cole, is to enshrine the Cincinnati Reds number 14 in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. If you want to say we want to keep Pete out because he gambled on baseball, keep Pete out, but put Cincinnati Reds number 14, because the man was a 17-time All-Star.
He was
a World Series MVP.
Sure.
He was a Rookie of the Year. He won 3 World Series. He won the Silver Slugger. He won the batting title 3 times. Pete Rose is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And he got caught gambling on himself to achieve things. I mean, imagine saying, Cole, you've got the ability to bet on how many times you can make a reference to LeBron James or a reference to the Dallas Cowboys on a show. And the record, the most you've ever done, is 4. So you say, you know what? I'm going to gamble on myself that I can mention the Dallas Cowboys 7 times today. And you go out and you do it. That's what Pete did. He gambled on his team.
Yeah.
He didn't gamble against his team. He didn't gamble the unders on his player props. He gambled the over, and he went out and achieved it.
I saw a funny tweet, Diesel, I wanted to read on air. I reposted it at the Cole Bryson earlier today. This came from Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy said, by the way, Jimmy is, let's see who he's with. He's a TV host, radio host in New York. Jimmy said Pete Rose was banned for life for betting on baseball. Every sports show covering his death is sponsored by a gambling site. This is the dumbest time there's ever been to be alive. True.
Look, I mean, we've had we've got Reggie Bush, who got his Heisman back and is now suing the Pac-12 and college football to get money and NIL money off of that. We got Denard Robinson and other Michigan players who are suing the Big Ten to get money for their name, image, and likeness. I mean, if we're going back and we're giving players their Heisman back, saying that thing that you did that was illegal then is legal now, so we're going to wipe the slate clean and pretend like you never did those bad things. We're going to apologize. We're going to give you a reward back. Major League Baseball should man up and do it and do the same thing and say, hey, we are now sponsored by the companies that you got banned from this sport. We are taking money from the companies who profit off of the thing that you did as a player back in the 80s. We're going to wash our hands of this. I mean, the moment Major League Baseball got a deal with FanDuel and BetMGM and all these books, they should have pardoned Pete Rose.
I want to get to a few comments on the stream, but first, JT and Greer Diesel brings up a good point. JT says he was banned for life. Now he is eligible. He did wrong, and now he served his punishment. I say put him in. Texter from the 315 chimes in and says the Hall of Fame is historical by nature. For fans to appreciate those who were the best, the ones who are gone hold a special place in the hall. He should be in, even if it happens now. Good text. I like that. 2 good texts in a row. Let's see. On the stream, our guys were commenting. Diesel Joey said Pete should be in the Hall of Fame. Joey's watching on the Facebook stream.
I went to high school with him.
No way.
Yeah, what's up, Joe?
DB says if Pete hadn't done what he did and lied about it for years, he'd be in. Yeah, I think lying about it's what got. Just to be quite frank, I think lying about it.
I think it was the aggravated nature in which he talked about Major League Baseball for decades after he was banned.
Well, that could be. Yep, that could be.
You can't call an organization, your former employer, a jerk to their faces for 25 years and then expect them to come around on you.
I'll tell you what gets to me though. Pete Rose, Diesel. This one just doesn't sit well with me. Pete Rose Jr., his son. He played not long, I don't believe, in the MLB. Do you know that this is 100% factual, by the way? When Pete Rose went to watch his son play for the Cincinnati Reds, he had to buy a ticket. He had to buy a ticket to go watch his freaking son play. Pete Rose. They wouldn't let in that. Like, they treat, yes, he talked bad about yes, he lied about, but they treated him like crap.
Well, Pete Rose worth a lot of money. Pete Rose could afford a ticket.
I know, but it's just the fact. It's the principle, right? Like, you're making Pete Rose pay for a freaking ticket.
They did bring him to the ballpark a number of times. They had him speak. He was wearing Cincinnati Reds gear. So, it seems as if the Reds still held him in a lot of high esteem, even if Major League Baseball didn't.
Texter says, players still can't gamble on their own sport. It maintains the integrity of the game. Just because you're sponsored by gambling sites and it's legal now, it's still not an argument to allow what he did. And no, ultimately, you're right. It doesn't make it right. Wesley Roberts on the Facebook stream says the Reggie Bush thing's ridiculous. Imagine if someone tried to sue because weed is now legal in their state and they got arrested years ago. It's tough, man. I mean,
it seems like a case for Jackie Childs from Seinfeld, right? You go to jail for 10 years because you got busted with a lot of weed. Now weed's legal, and you go bust and you go sue for lost wages and damage and all that stuff for the decade that you spent in jail for something that's now legal.
JT and Greer says if you change the record after the fact, that gets complicated. That would mean you would have to add points to the guys in basketball who didn't have a three-point line. Yeah, it's tough. It absolutely is tough. So we'll continue to get back to the Pete Rose conversation. Diesel, one quick note, though. Let's do this now before we forget. I just saw a text come in on the text line for relief. I think this is in the Daily Wires, if I'm not mistaken, right? They put this in here. If you need relief or know someone that needs relief, you can text keyword relief, RELIEF, to 71307. A link with disaster relief info will be sent directly to your phone. Again, keyword relief, RELIEF, to 71307. Wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, that's a really important thing. There's a lot of initiatives out there, Cole. There's another one here in the Daily Wires that we're going to get to. We're going to repeat these multiple times throughout the show, but there's a drive to collect supplies at Charlotte Motor Speedway tomorrow.
Yes.
From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They are asking specifically for things like water, for non-perishable foods, and baby diapers and wipes and supplies for babies. So if you are anywhere near the Charlotte area and you can gather a couple of those items, take those supplies to Charlotte Motor Speedway tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
That's cool.
They're going to collect, and that's the staging area to send everything to the mountains.
Ben also chimed in, one of our listeners. Ben says, keyword fan, free community lunch redemption church, 315 Row Road, that's ROE, Row Road in Greenville, October 2nd and 3rd. That's what, tomorrow and Thursday?
Yep.
From 12 to 3, also offering resources to charge devices and a place to cool off if needed. So lunch, places to charge your phone, and a place to cool off. Again, that's Free Community Church. Really appreciate you, Ben, for letting us know of that. And for all those out there, your groups, your community groups, your churches that are doing things, hats off to you. I wish Diesel and I could take off our headsets and go right now and help because that's what needs to be done. So we appreciate you and all of those out there. The Braves, Diesel, they back their way into the postseason. We'll talk about it next. Diesel, I got mad yesterday. I tweeted out, Brian Snitker should be fired. Get rid of him. Can him. However, I asked the question today after game 2 when they backed their way into the postseason, the blind squirrel found its nut. I mean, good grief. Should I retract my statement? Should I delete the tweet, as they say, which I don't ever do, by the way? Diesel, I know the Braves made the postseason. However, you know how sometimes, like, coaches can make really bad mistakes. Coaches can do dumb things like pulling their guy way too early. And somebody later on in the team, or on the team rather, will still save and cover up that coaching mistake. I don't retract my statement. I know that Brian Snitker got this team with a lot of injuries into the playoffs. I get it. But I'm just not sold that Brian Snitker is the guy to get this team back to the World Series year after year with all the talent they've had. The Atlanta Braves, though, Diesel, today, their wild card series begins cross-country trip late last night. They got on the plane and are playing tonight, at 8:30, a very short turnaround, but the Atlanta Braves have found themselves in the postseason.
Yeah, that puts them at a marked disadvantage going into this game. I don't know how they're going to recover from that. I mean, they're professional athletes. It's what they do. They're going to be on a comfortable airplane. Knowing them, they're probably going to be getting pumped with IVs to make sure their fluids are up and they're going to be fine. But that's certainly a tough position to put a team like that in. And they're going to have a tough time. A real tough time beating the Padres, who are a good baseball team. But then again, Cole, the Braves always seem to play better against better teams this year.
Well,
and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but maybe there's a chance.
What's hurt the Braves is the back spasms of Chris Sale, who was supposed to pitch today. And Diesel, he's been scratched. And the Chris Sale will not go. And that's a huge blow, man. I mean, Chris Sale, what a freaking year he had. I mean, he was fantastic this season.
We were wondering if he was going to stay healthy.
Right, and he did. And now,
very end.
when they need him the most, he doesn't stay healthy. So absolutely tragic for the Braves not having Chris Sale tonight. However, Braves-Padres, one of the 4 wild card games that are happening today. The postseason is here. On right now, Diesel, the Tigers are defeating the Astros 3-0. The Royals and Orioles will start here in about 9 minutes. But Tigers are leading the Astros. Tigers are a really hot team right now. The Braves tonight, again, that game will be watchable on ESPN. Wild Card Baseball on ESPN. You don't have to have an illegal app. So, Diesel, my illegal app days for this year are over. No more illegal streams for Cole.
You call it watchable, but I don't know if you mean that in the strictest sense, because we just don't know with this Atlanta Braves team. They might go out and score 15 runs tonight. They may get blanked. You just never know. When we come back, Cole, it is time to dive back in, because a lot of Tolos couldn't listen yesterday. Dive back into our Week 5 Upset Picks Challenge standings. A lot of people want to know where they are in the standings, and we'll look at some of our early leans, start kind of thinking through and start making our minds up on who we might want to take in the Upset Picks Challenge for Week 6. That's next on the Fan Upstate. Tolos are starting to rebuild. You can tell because they're now worried about the Upset Picks Challenge standings. Text in 71307. Let us know, what games are you leaning towards this week? These are not official picks in any way, shape, or form. Picks are not open for another 24 hours. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, you'll be able to start getting your upset picks into us. But like, what do you like? What are you leaning towards right now? That's what we talk about each and every Tuesday, 24 hours before the Upset Picks Challenge begins. Cole, you are now so far down off the leaderboard,
Diesel.
I don't even see you.
Diesel, you didn't have to go there.
That's
You
sad.
didn't have to go there. Why'd
That's
you do
sad. Cole, I believe, has somewhere in the range of 7 points in the challenge because you picked South Carolina over Kentucky in, what was that, week 2?
Yeah.
And that one, I believe, was worth 10 points at the time.
Week 2.
So you've gotten 3 wrong in a row. The weeks 3, 4, and 5 picks wrong. So you should be around 7 points. Far, far below where I am right now at 17 points. Feeling good about myself. But if you're wondering what the standings are, Noel is in the lead with a strong 39 points. Noel has 39 points. Josh Pate has 38. Twisted Whisker has 36. Amazon Guy, 32.5. Buckeye Brian has 30 points. Justin L, 28 points. Greenville Gamecock is in 7th place with 25.5 points. Jake Crane and Brandon from Moore in 8th place with 24.5 points. And Reese Davis in 10th place with 24. That's your top 10. If you want to know where you are, call in, text in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or give us a ring on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. And we can tell you where you are in the upset picks standing. Let's go to the phone line right now to the architect of this graphic and the architect and the man behind all of the work that goes into compiling all of these stats. We go to the phone lines, and Dan B wants to talk about the upset picks challenge. Dan, what's up?
Hey guys. Yeah,
What's
no,
up?
I just want to apologize for the New Mexico State fiasco. I don't know how I saw that they had won the game, and so I just started adding those points in. And then I went back and looked after Cole told on himself and saw that, nope, they definitely lost. So there was 3 or 4 or 5 people that had taken them. And I didn't move everyone that came off the top 30 because of that pick that was there incorrectly. I didn't move them all down below. So they do have their points. If there's somebody missing, the information is there. It just didn't make it to the graphic. That's all.
So, DB,
Cole
did I get wiped
Cole
off?
There with 7.
Oh, okay.
No, you're not. You have 7 points. You're down there with Josh P1, Panther Boy.
7.
Wow,
7
way down
lousy
there, bud.
points.
You and Chase and Falcon Jeremy, Gold Rush at 7 points.
That's embarrassing.
Well, I mean, you're like in the middle of the others receiving votes category.
He's technically like 61st place.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that.
It's showing he's tied with Cole, Diddy, Gold Rush, and Jeremy and Panther Boy all have 7. So Diddy is also missing from the graphic, but they're still on the board.
So 61 Tolos, or he's in 61st place. How many Tolos have points on the board right now, Dan?
87.
87. And I believe that's a record for the number that still have points. A record to have points in a given week.
I think 2 people got on the board this week and nobody came off, if I remember right.
Speaking of which,
Melissa would have came off, but she picked Alabama for 2, so she's still on the board.
Oh, how about that? J-Rock is in danger. He's got 1 point.
Yes.
Nashty has 1.5 points. So if he doesn't make a pick, he's off the board. Shane and Sugar Tit has 1.5 points. Ruby Downs has 2 points. Look at Ruby getting on the board. I love that.
Yeah, Ruby got on there too. That's right. She was one of the ones that got added.
Those are the Tolos who are in danger of possibly falling off of the graphic this week. How many total unique players do we have in the challenge this year?
Okay, we are sitting on 157.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had 1 new guy last week. Only 1 new name was added, and that was A to the MFJ.
Love it.
I like it.
Love it. And that's a record also, right? The total number of.
Oh, yeah. Every week that number grows as a new record.
Love it. Thank you, Dan B. Where are you, by the way? Do you know how many points you have in this challenge?
I have a big fat 0.
Oh man.
Dan's challenged for the win in this a couple of times.
Yeah.
This year, not so much.
Yeah. No, there's a few of us that are normal. Like we've been around. Me, Brandon Burnett. Let's see, Hurricane Jeff, I think, has played in the past.
Yeah, Delvin is way down the board somewhere.
Delvin.
Jarrett Tripp, he hasn't made the board. Madcraft hasn't made the board.
Oh, why you got to throw Madcraft's listening? You know, he's got a family.
Delvin still hasn't made the board yet.
Man, this challenge.
Mike, those are the regulars.
This challenge is brutal, man. Like you can be really good one year and you could be awful the next.
Yeah, and no, but you also have Pat McAfee isn't on the board yet, and Chris Phillips isn't, and I think there's a couple others of the supers.
Hey, DB, before you go, you want to know my new strategy as of today for this picks contest. I am going to pick
points. Why not?
Well, I'm going to pick Colorado every week. And if I pick Colorado every week, last week they beat Baylor. I don't know how many, 14, 19 points, something like that. Last week they were underdogs by.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start picking Dion. And they're off this week, by the way.
Yeah, so either pick Colorado every week or pick whoever's playing FSU if FSU is the favorite.
Ooh.
And you'd be a winner. You'd
you
win
go.
the whole thing.
I like it.
Especially now with a redshirt freshman quarterback playing for the Florida State, or possibly playing for the Florida State Seminoles, listed as an
they gotta be a favorite. If they're not a favorite, I wouldn't pick them to be an upset because I don't think they're going to upset anybody.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate the call. Thank you so much. We got over 80 Tolos who have points on the board. I love seeing Ruby Downs on the list. I love seeing Shane and Sugartit on the list just because I like saying that. Tiger Pal Rachel is on the board. JD Wyatt's fallen back in a big way. He's down to 5.5 points. So JD, pick it up. You've done well in this contest in the past. It's brutal, man. Like you can feel really good about your picks.
Yeah.
And then not even come close.
I'm a second half team.
Not even come close.
I'm going to pick it up here in a little while.
Have you had a chance, Cole, to look at a couple of games that you think might be interesting and might be worthy of picking?
Well, what's the point?
Oh, come on.
I never win. What's the point in me sitting here find a game? I can't find a game. I can't find 6 games for this stupid. Again, I'm mad. I'm upset. But yes, I have looked to answer your question. I've looked at a few.
Mm-hmm.
The Gamecocks interest me.
Mm-hmm.
However, here's the problem with the Gamecocks. Gamecocks and Ole Miss, Saturday at Willie B. Ole Miss just got beat by Kentucky.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is not going to lose 2 games in a row.
And Lenora Sellers coming off that ankle injury. I mean, how good is he right now? I mean, we know when he's healthy. When he's healthy, I'd have no problems picking South Carolina to beat Ole Miss. At home.
3:30 game.
Yeah. But, I mean, is he at 90%? Is he at 92%? Is he at 100%? I mean, could he re-aggravate that ankle injury if he steps wrong? So that's a good reason to not take South Carolina. However, that game is worth 9 points.
9 points.
So
I just don't see him losing 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. I mean, but are we really finding out who Ole Miss is, right? They played a nothing schedule, much in the way that Miami had played a nothing schedule. And when they faced Virginia Tech, they almost lost. And a lot of people, especially if you go up there to the Blacksburg area, a lot of people say that they did lose. But that's an interesting one to take. And I'm sure we're going to have quite a few Tolos texting in with that game tomorrow. I know that, Cole, you got your heart ripped out by East Carolina, so you might want to bet against them. East Carolina is at Charlotte. Charlotte's going to get 10 if you pick Charlotte, but Charlotte sucks.
Charlotte's underdog?
Yeah, Charlotte's the underdog. It's worth 10 points. You got a head coach who wears hoodies in the summertime with the sleeves cut off. Are you willing to take a risk and put money on Charlotte?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
They had a ton of injuries.
Yeah.
Like I remember Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer was talking about Charlotte, and they have a ton of it. No, I'm no interest there. No interest there. Look, I've looked at a couple. I just cannot find one that jumps off the page? It's still early, though, right? We still have 24 hours until the challenge opens. And I apologize, I was answering the phone. Did you say that you had an early lean or two?
I do. I'm really interested in Duke plus 7.5 at Georgia Tech. Duke's 5-0.
Dude.
And somehow they're 7.5-point road dogs at Bobby Dodd Stadium, which is one of the weirdest, ugliest football stadiums in college football. Not that it matters, but it does look good, play good, right?
Yeah.
I like Georgia Tech a lot, but they've certainly fallen off and they've disappointed after a good start. Are you willing to go Duke for 7.5
there, Diesel?
At Georgia Tech? That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Here's one that I'm paying big attention to, and I can't believe the line has not moved, and it might by tomorrow, because remember, we locked these in at 3:00 on Wednesdays. Syracuse plus 6.5 at UNLV. Now, UNLV, obviously the big story this past week is that their quarterback has redshirted and he's going to enter the transfer portal. So has the running back.
I think he now works at the casino.
Yeah, so you got a new quarterback who's a redshirt senior transfer from Campbell.
Good one. That's
from Campbell, playing for UNLV, hosting an ACC team. Syracuse plus 6.5 at UNLV. That one's really interesting to me, but then again, it could move.
We're going to get to Brock and Gaffney, who wants to talk about the storm up in Cherokee County in a second. But Diesel, how about this one? You ready? James Madison, 4-0 at UL Monroe, who's 3-1. James Madison on the road, 17-point favorites. Is there
ULM?
Come on, don't shoot it down.
No, I'm not. I am not riding with the same team 2 weeks in a row, especially after ULM couldn't muster but one touchdown, and they needed a late fourth quarter touchdown to win that game.
Who'd they beat?
They beat Troy last week.
So that was your pick?
Yes.
Oh, so you don't think they can do it 2 weeks in a row?
No.
Oh,
against James Madison?
I
Bro,
don't know.
James Madison is good.
I don't know.
Like, real good. Real good. And by the way, I feel good about where I am in the challenge. I got 17.5 points.
You don't want to risk it.
I'm on the right-hand column of the top half of the leaderboard. So I can just keep being smart, picking 5, 7, 9-point games, and I hit a couple more of those.
I'm with you.
I'm feeling real good about myself.
I'm with you. Tolo Steve says on the text line, I'm thinking Duke over Georgia Tech. CJ from Greer says, what do you think? What do you guys think about Syracuse over UNLV? Diesel mentioned that one. I believe that text came in right before you mentioned it, so hopefully you heard that on the text line. JT or CJ in Greer. Sorry for getting JT and CJ mixed up. Both of you in Greer. A lot of good upset picks, leans, if you will. I have a few leans, but I don't think I'm going to go with against James Madison either. I was just trying to give you a little bait there.
Yeah, no, you're not going to. I mean, if you're telling me they got way down, maybe, but I don't think so.
Let's hear from Brock on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. Brock, a good friend of the show, especially the Saturday morning scramble. Brock, you are in Cherokee County. What are the improvements, if any? Appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, guys, good to talk with you. And it's getting much better day by day. And actually, I just left a press conference held by Cherokee County to provide some updates. And one theme that's carried on here in Cherokee County, I know in other communities in the upstate as well, but neighbors looking out for neighbors. And I know it's a very difficult situation, but at its peak, Cherokee County had 94% of its people without power. There's a lot of people in Cherokee County that rely on well water, therefore they cannot flush their toilets and do not have any running water. Now, as of 3:00 this afternoon, that number was down to 44%, and we're battling out of it. But luckily, a lot of the stores are back open. They're stocked. The gas stations have fuel. So things are turning up here, but still some concern, of course, in Western North Carolina for those folks there. But like I say, you know, there's good that comes with the bad, of course. And the good that we have seen in this is people looking out for each other. And that heart and compassion for others has been exceptional during this very difficult time.
So, Brock, I have a question for you. I've seen that in times like these, you know, there's always a huge rush for everyday folks to pack up a pickup truck full of supplies and rush it into town. But sometimes that's not necessarily the best way to get aid to people, because now you got, a whole bunch of well-meaning individuals blocking up the roads and causing potential more problems for the professionals who know exactly how to handle these situations. Are you finding that to be the case, or are you hearing that being the case anywhere?
Well, I can tell you here that the boots on the ground and the people in the community and the churches are the ones that are doing the legwork, to be honest. We do now have distribution sites set up in Cherokee County, but they did not arrive from federal or state assistance until yesterday. And it's just difficult. It's not their fault. It's just tough to rally their troops together, but it's been the boots on the ground, the local churches who have the resources and know how to handle these situations and disasters when they can go in and get to these homes and provide assistance. The Broad River Baptist Association here in Cherokee County has been exceptional. They were able to secure tons of generators, get those out to local fire departments and those with medical needs. It has just been exceptional to see these local nonprofits and organizations rally together. And we do appreciate, of course, all the support from state and federal levels. It's just taken a while to get here. And so the boots on the grounds are the ones they're doing, pulling the legwork and keeping things going day by day.
Well, Brock, y'all stay safe up there. Appreciate the update. Stay safe up there in Cherokee County.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Todd Richardson Diesel on the Facebook stream says, I have a good-sized generator that I'm willing to lend out. I work in Taylors and live in Anderson. If you live reasonably close to my route, I'll drop it off to you today. I don't have any extension cords, but have brand new gas that goes with it. Todd, that's awesome. Appreciate you commenting that on the stream. Really means a lot. Look, that's Todd, that, those kind of texts, man, and messages, it gives me goosebumps, because that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to look out for our neighbors. So, Todd, really appreciate you saying that. Again, that's Todd on the Facebook stream. Real quick, before we hit a break, and then we're going to talk to Cary Johnson of Broad River Diesel. Any interest? Another Sunbelt game. Old Dominion at Coastal. Coastal's favored by 6. Any interest there for the Upset Picks Challenge?
No. Old Dominion has, what are they? Are they still winless?
They're 1-3.
1-3. Okay.
Yep.
So you're at some point you are what your record says you are.
That's true.
I mean, there are teams that have bad luck who are close in a couple of games, but you start to show who you really are after 3, 4, 5 games under your belt. So I'm not willing to go there. Coastal Carolina, as much as it pains me to say, is a program that's figured some things out, and they're humming. And
is that
year over year, they're pretty decent.
Does that line not seem a little tight?
A little weird. I've seen a couple lines like this Duke Georgia Tech line that makes me say, what's going on here? Yeah. Is somebody injured? Is there something 6. I don't know? And that's the one thing I hate about ESPN.com. Yeah. They don't give you that information. They don't give you the news that so-and-so is hurt, that so-and-so may not play. You just have to go figure that out for yourself.
That's right. All right, Cary Johnson of Broad River Electric. He joined us on Friday when we had just been hit by Helene. We'll catch up with him again on the other side just to get a quick update from the Broad River folks and give you, Tolos, an update as well. Cary Johnson next. Getting back to the updates of what's happening here in the upstate of South Carolina post Hurricane Helene. Again, if you need to spread the word or need some relief on what's going on, our text line is open, 71307. Start your text with keyword FAN, F-A-N. That way we will see your message come through. Want to go back to the phones where we're joined by Cary Johnson, COO at Broad River Electric Cooperative. Cary, we talked to you on Friday as soon as this bad boy or bad girl rather just hit the upstate. A lot of things that were happening on Friday. And then now that you've had and your team and all the crews have had 3 to 4 days to kind of assess all that's gone on, what's your immediate reaction now on a Tuesday afternoon to where we are in terms of the cleanup?
Thanks for having me, Cole. Appreciate it. Able to get out and get here and inform some of the people, because I know everybody wants to know. People like to be informed, and we want to keep everybody informed best we can. Total devastation is a word I'm probably going to say today. The difference between probably this and an ice storm, it come and went quickly. So the roads, once the roads is getting clear, we're able to pass. We're not having to worry about snow and ice. So yeah, we're pretty devastated, which all power companies in the area are. We usually operate around 20, 25 linemen. Right now we have 180 on the ground here on Broad River System, and they're still en route. Some of them's coming from as far away as Minnesota. The ones come from New York is already here. As you know, most of them was pushed down to Florida. And so now we're bringing them all from up north and out of the Midwest. And we was hoping a lot of them would get released from Florida and move up this way, but we hadn't seen a lot of that yet. But we're making progress. Just hearts out to everyone that's been devastated by this thing.
Joining the phone right now by Cary Johnson, COO of Broad River Electric Co-op here on the Fan Upstate. Cary, number one, thanks for taking the time with us today. I know you're a really, really busy man today. We've all seen a lot of folks post on social media around here wondering when their power is going to come back on, saying the neighborhood next to mine has power, but our neighborhood doesn't. Can you walk us through the process of identification, assessment, deployment, cleanup, restoration, and explain to people why it can take a little bit longer for power to be restored to their particular neighborhoods?
Yes, that's a good question, and then that's a lot of questions people's going to ask in the next several days, and I look for this thing to last well on into probably the weekend. So first we have to have transmission lines to the substation, and that's probably been a big issue. I know Duke Energy's probably had 200 transmission lines that failed during this storm. Now, that don't mean we're not working just because of we don't have power to these substations themselves. So that is a lot of that started to come back. We still have 3 or 4 that does not have transmission voltage to them. But it works. You start at the substation, and then you start pushing out what we call the 3-phase tap feeders. And then we have single-phase taps that comes off of that. So probably the biggest thing you're going to see over the next few days, and this is the way we choose to restore the power, is get on what we can. And so that means the main line's got to come on first. And then we catch all the taps. Now, I have been in Florida working storms before where they just left everything off till they could bring it all on, but at one time. But we want to get as many as we can and help as many people as possible. So it is very possible one neighbor could have power and one neighbor may not. And so if one phase is out and one phase is on, that's how that happens. So working hard. So we start the substation and we push it out till we get to the very end. And that's where we're at now. And we're working on it. We got crews all over Spartanburg, Union, Cherokee County accomplishing that.
Cary, this may be a question you haven't gotten, as I know your phones have been busy since all of this happened on Thursday evening, Friday morning. But I'll tell you what, man, when I see these guys at work, they don't get a lot of gratification. They don't get a lot of praise during the year. This is not a job that we talk about and say, hey, when you grow up, you should be a lineman. But I'll tell you what, man, after seeing what I've seen the past few days, my appreciation and respect for them is at an all-time high. For somebody out there listening that may have a kid in the car with them as well, that when they see all these guys at work, maybe for the first time in their entire life, they want to grow up and be a lineman. What would you say to somebody out there listening that may be thinking that same thing?
Exactly. I very gratifying line to be in. And they some different from when I come up. There's some lineman school, tech schools out there now that have classes. And that gives a man a leg up coming out into the field, just like any time you go to a technical school. And it's labor intensive. It's challenging at times, but at the end of the day, after a big storm like this, it's very gratifying to be able to look back and see what you've done.
Cary, for the linemen themselves, we can go 100 yards from where we're sitting in our studios right now, and there's a base camp for a whole slew of crews out there. For the individual workers themselves, how long are they being pushed individually to work a shift and then to take a long break? I mean, are they getting some time off as well?
Yeah, Cole, Diesel, we trying to rest them as much as we can. When I say that, when it gets 9, 10 o'clock at night, we try to have them fed. Now then we have what we call the third shift ones that go out and continue to work. So we're working them in shifts that way. And the motels, there's several around that we have them throughout the 3 counties. A lot of the motels don't have power. So I was just talking to a crew a while ago. They're over in Spartanburg. The motel does not have power, but the owners, the groups have been gracious to them. They've got up and cooked them breakfast on grills and stuff in the morning, even though we've had breakfast brought in. They said, hey, we're just going to grab our breakfast and go, Cary. We'll be out on the system working. So, yeah, even and Broad River's linemen, probably lots of those do not have power, myself included, and that's okay. We all know what it's about. And so they're working. The biggest thing is some of them, they get in a shower, but it's the water's not too warm. How about that?
Cary Johnson joins us right here on the Fan Upstate. Cary is the COO at Broad River Electric Cooperative. Cary, to your point about the showers, it's tough, and a lot of people in the upstate in the same situation. Just because a lot of power is on, there's still a lot without. You told me on Friday that we'd be talking about this again next Friday, which it seems as if you're going to be right. When you look at where we are today on Tuesday, do you feel like we've made good progress in getting back to full restoration, if you will?
Yes, most definitely, Cole. Like I said, the substation's powers are back on. We've been out working ever since the storm hit. But with the substations on now, when we get a line rebuilt, we're able to energize it. Where in the very few days at the beginning, we was not able to. So definitely making a lot of progress. For us, I know we probably still have 150 broke poles on our system. I know Blue Ridge Co-op up and around the Pickens area probably has north of 400 and something poles down. But we are making progress every day. Things start looking better and better. So every day we getting into this thing is a better day. I will say that.
We're joined live by Cary Johnson from Broad River Electric Co-op. Do crews deployed or assigned to an area stay until all customers in that area are back on, or are they being peeled off at a few at a time to go service other areas?
Probably, and that's a good question. Best thing, as we was talking about earlier, those main feeder lines, and they're trying to get all of those on first, and then they'll come back and get the tap lines off of that. Now, if it's a big enough crew, they may be grabbing some taps as they go. And you say, well, why is it that way? Without that main feeder line on, those taps don't, they have nothing no power to them. So we got to get that main feeder on first, just like we had to do the substation, get it on first. So if they're in your area, they're not going far, and that's probably what everybody wants to know is when am I going to get back on? Nobody wants to be forgotten, and believe me, we ain't going to do that. Have any questions? Please reach out to our hotlines and let us know. But we're gonna get everybody, I promise you, and we're gonna get them as quick as we can. But there will be times that one neighbor has power and the one won't, and I guess I want to emphasize those linemen out there. I know Tempers is flaring with the public, and they're doing all they can, but and a lot of times they don't have the answers. So we've had just a few incidents, but if people will stand down, let them do their job.
My last question for you, Cary, do customers who still haven't been restored, do they need to continue reporting outages, or do you, Duke, and the other electric providers around here, do you know who is out and who you need to go fix?
Yes, but the mapping systems nowadays, we know pretty much all of it. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong still with reporting the outages. I encourage people to do that. And at the end, we want to make sure we've got everybody, you know what I'm saying? And as like I said last Friday, we'll still be talking about it this Friday.
Well, Cary, we appreciate you hopping on with us to give us another update. I don't know how many linemen I can fit in my 2-bedroom apartment, but if they need a place to stay, send them my way. Appreciate you, Cary.
I thank you very much, Cole, and maybe we can come Friday. We'll have a better outlook on this thing. But everything I can tell you today is positive. We are making a lot of progress.
Appreciate you so much. Sir. We are making a lot of progress, says Cary Johnson, COO at Broad River Electric. And that's a positive sign, Diesel.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people who feel like they have been forgotten to this point, and that's why I wanted to make sure I asked that question about whether or not you still need to be calling your provider, letting them know that you're out. Yeah. If you've called them once, you don't need to call them over and over and over again. But that is good to know that their mapping systems can tell them who is out.
So you're saying my phone that has 806 calls directly to Yeah, you're right. So they know where you are.
And it's not the answer that a lot of people want, but he's telling you the process. Yep. They got to they got to get the generation back up and running. Then they got to get the main lines back up and running. Then they can get the taps that come off of that main line up and running. The taps are what come to your house. Yep. So they can't get your house back up until the main line is good to go. And it's not like there's one tree that came down on the main line. There's multiple trees that came down on the main lines. And it's a process to chip away at this thing.
It is. And what people have to remember is there are so many rural areas, Diesel, that are devastated. I mean, we're on Woodruff Road, right, in Greenville, and Woodruff Road, much like Highway 9 in Bowling Springs where I live, is very operational. Things are getting back to normal. Bowling Springs right now. If you go to Bowling Springs, everything's on one road, right? If you ask where something is in Bowling Springs, it's on Highway 9. It doesn't matter what it is, where it's on Highway 9. Highway 9 is very operational right now. I mean, the past 2 days, it's looked really good. Gas stations aren't flooded like they used to be. I ran into a crew this morning from Michigan, Diesel, and over at my grandparents' house. They live in a very wooded area, a lot of down trees, and guys from Michigan. And you know what, man? Like, it's just when you see them and you talk to them, it really does do your heart well, and it just warms your heart because there's so many people from Michigan and all these other states and countries in Canada who are leaving their families to come here and help us. And I also wanted to get this message out as well. This is from Spartanburg County District 2. Today and yesterday, there were great efforts to do some feeding in the Bowling Springs area. Diesel, nearly 1,700 meals were distributed at Sholey Creek Elementary today, in large part to Chartwell's Food, who provides the food for the cafeterias. They will be serving hot meals free of charge tomorrow from 11 to 2, Sholey Creek Elementary School. This is off of Parish Bridge Road in Bowling Springs. Anyone is welcome to come and eat some good food. You can dine in. You can take a plate to go. They have charging stations for phones. So, Diesel, these school cafeterias are now becoming hubs for the community to come get food. 1,700 meals today, man. Really, hat goes off to Spartanburg County District 2. That is incredible.
And my hat goes off to the Tolos that we've had texting the word relief to 71307. When we mentioned that earlier in the show, you can text the word relief, RELIEF, to 71307 and get a link with disaster relief information sent directly to your phone. It'll tell you how you can get assistance. It'll tell you how you can give assistance. So if you're looking for a way to help, that is a great way to do it. Text the word relief to 71307.
We've had over 50 in the last 30 minutes, over 50 texts with relief. Over 50. I just counted. And you're right. Text relief because they'll send you a link with great resources. Over 50 in just the last 30 minutes. So all of those out there who are patiently waiting, continue to wait. You heard from Cary Johnson. It's coming. They're coming. They're coming to you. If you don't see them on your front doorstep with a roll of cable and a power pole, that doesn't mean they're not going to get to you. They're going to make sure you're taken care of. So much damage, so much destruction out there. Just looking back over the last few days, Diesel, I believe I said it yesterday, but I think back to the word untouchable, right? I think that the people of the upstate of South Carolina felt as if they were untouchable, especially in North Carolina as well, because, a lot of times the mountain ranges will kind of slow down storms, right? As they come through, whether it be from Atlanta or other parts of the country, the mountain ranges will help with those storms. And, we don't get a ton of tornadoes here. It's not like Kansas, right? We don't have the tornado threat that a lot of other states do. We don't have the hurricane threat in the upstate. And I just think that in large part, we felt like we were untouchable in a way. And Helene proved that we are definitely touchable. And again, for all those out there working hard, first responders, firemen, police, paramedics, linemen, everybody, we all, Diesel and I both say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, we've been fortunate here, especially here in Greenville and Spartanburg and Anderson counties, that we have been in a little bit of a Goldilocks zone where we don't get hit hard by hurricanes. We don't get hit hard by tornadoes. They do occasionally happen, and this is one of those historic ones that you can't really plan for. You think that you're protected here, but guess what? You're not. You're not protected really anywhere. But that also should put into the back of people's minds next time around. A year from now, we're going to have another hurricane season. We're still in hurricane season. Right. That means get yourself as prepared as you possibly can. That means having a couple of cans of propane to cook food on. It means, battening down the hatches as best you can when bad weather is expected. So, have yourself a little bit more prepared next time. When we come back, Cole, we're going to take a look around the sports world and get to our daily wires. So much happening in the sports world, Cole. We can't get to all of it on the show. At least we can't spend 15 minutes on every single thing happening in sports. So we do something called our Daily Wires. This is the buzz happening around the sports world. The Major League Baseball wild card begins today. Tigers at Astros, Royals at Orioles, Mets at Brewers, and Braves at Padres. At the Padres, that game starts, you said it's 8:20, 8:30?
8:30 tonight, the Bravos.
Late.
And
nobody is going to be watching it because nobody's got power.
Well, I will be.
You do.
Tigers, Astros right now on the bottom of the seventh, rather. Detroit leads Houston 3-0. Again, these are best of 3 in the wild card. This
is going to be tough for Atlanta to navigate. Chris Sale was scratched for tonight's game for Atlanta due to back spasms. He was the big question mark going into the season. We knew that Chris Sale was an elite pitcher. Could he stay healthy for the entire season? He stayed healthy a lot longer than any of us expected him to, but we're losing him at a very, very critical time.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate those spasms.
Yep.
What is that anyways?
Back spasms?
Oh, my back hurts.
It's a twitch.
Take a freaking shot. Shoot him in the back and throw him out there.
Yeah,
Come on.
So if you're looking for ways to help with Hurricane Helene relief, Charlotte Motor Speedway is taking collections for relief efforts in the North Carolina mountains. Tomorrow, you can deliver items, and here's what they're specifically in need of: bottled water, canned and non-perishable food items, baby diapers, and wipes. You can bring them to Charlotte Motor Speedway tomorrow morning, starting at 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You can bring items there. They'll then transport them to North Wilkesboro Speedway on Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m. They're working with Wilkes County, and they're going to distribute those items to locals up there in Wilkes County that were hit very, very hard. So again, if you're looking for a way to help, if you can do it tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., you can deliver bottled water, canned and non-perishable food items, and baby wipes to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Trust me, you get there, you're going to see where they are, and they'll direct you where to go to drop off those items.
And you can go get a bunch of canned foods for, they're cheap. Canned goods.
What's a can of corn? A dime? 15 cents?
Maybe 50. I don't know. I hadn't bought it in a long time, but it's not expensive. You can go load up your car, load up your truck. I'd like to do the same thing. And Tolos, if you want to do it, let's do it. Let's go to Charlotte tomorrow morning. Let's load them up. And I mean, just we'll load up a truck full of diesel. Load up a truck full bottled water and cans. Let's go up there and drop them off tomorrow.
Now, if you can't make it to Charlotte tomorrow morning, here's a great way for you to get started assisting in the relief efforts. Text the word relief to 71307. You'll get a link to disaster relief information that'll be sent directly to your phones, so you can figure out ways and find ways that you can help and be a part of the relief efforts. If you text the word relief to 71307, and you said it, we've got a lot of people texting in. Major League Baseball legend Pete Rose died on yesterday at the age of 83. A lot of conversation. We talked about it earlier in the show today. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Did Pete Rose even want to be in the Hall of Fame? Does he see the value in it, or did he see the value in it? And would it be kind of a jerk move for Major League Baseball to put him in after he's passed away?
Here's a quick 30 seconds on what Pete Rose said.
I don't see much sense in putting me on the ballot after I die. Because for a player to go into his or her Hall of Fame, it's more or less for your family, and it's more or less for your fan base. And I'm big on both of those two things right there. And I know most of the people who rooted for me my whole career would love to see me in the Hall of Fame as a living player, not as someone that's 10 feet under. And I always thought about that. What good would it do my family if they put me in the Hall of Fame after I die? I can't think of anything good about that.
What good would it do to my family if you put me in the Hall of Fame after I die?
That's tough. That is tough to hear.
Major League Baseball, I think, will eventually do it. But I think they'll do it to make themselves feel better and to absolve themselves from the conversation of why didn't you? How couldn't you have? Why didn't you when he was still alive? Yeah. They'll do it. And, they'll pat themselves on the back for it, but they won't deserve it. Yesterday, if you didn't hear this, Dikembe Mutombo passed away at the age of 58 from brain cancer. That's just another tragic situation. I I get through situations of tragedy with levity. I'm sure they had to bring in 2 hospital beds because he was a really tall guy. Gonzaga, this is big news. Gonzaga will exit the West Coast Conference and join the Pac-12 as an all-sports member for the 2026 season. Gonzaga, pretty good basketball program. They've reached the NCAA tournament round of 16 for 9 consecutive seasons. So good get if you're the Pac-12, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird that they don't have football and they're being brought in. Last we heard, they were being courted with a full share despite not having football, which, I mean, imagine being able to put that kind of additional money into your basketball program. Gonzaga basketball, I think, is going to stay really, really strong in the Pac-12. Another major move for conference realignment, UTEP has announced that they will leave Conference USA and join the Mountain West. So the Pac-12 trying to build back, the Mountain West trying to build back. UTEP, who is way out there, all the way at the very end of Texas, they're going to be joining the Mountain West, which I think probably makes more geographic sense than being in Conference USA. I mean, come on, you're playing teams in Florida and in North Carolina and in Virginia. If you're UTEP, now you're actually playing schools out there on your half of the country. Here's a wild one, Cole, and we can get into this a little bit later on. Former Jaguars employee Amit Patel stole more than $22 million from the team, and he has just sued FanDuel, claiming that the sportsbook exploited his gambling addiction and intentionally ignored signs of his problem gambling. Court filings show that he transferred approximately $20 million to FanDuel. How dare you let me screw myself up this bad, That's FanDuel? Great. I'm going to sue you.
Blame the bookie, right? Blame the bookie for your gambling habits.
And finally, White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf addressed the team's embarrassing season, 41-121. In a letter he addressed to fans, he called the season, quote, "By all measures, our on-field performance this season was a failure. As the leader of this organization, that is my ultimate responsibility. There are no excuses."
Hey, real quick, you know what's wild? You mentioned that Dikembe Mutombo died at 58 from brain cancer. To put in perspective how long, Diesel, LeBron James has been in the NBA, they played against each other.
Oh, my God.
Think about that. He's 58. LeBron's first stint in Cleveland, Mutombo was with Denver, and they won the championship.
Oh, my
That's
God.
how long LeBron's been. That is insane. We will get back into the Storm coverage on the other side. Also be joined by Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright. All that and more next. Continuing to keep you updated on what's going on post-Hurricane Helene. Welcome into hour number 3 of the program. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you. Remember to text RELIEF to 71307. Again, RELIEF to 71307. If you need a link to ways that you can get support or if you know someone that needs it. We're joined now by Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright. We heard you earlier today, Sheriff, on our sister station 98.9, which is just across the hall from us. I know you've been busy. We appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. But now that you've had a few nights to sleep on all of this, what are your thoughts on what you've seen in the past 4 days from Hurricane Helene?
You said something about sleep. What's that? All right. Well, listen, there have been some crazy things going on. We had 3 people killed in Woodruff, like on Saturday night, and it was over trespassing and just crazy stuff. We've had guns being pointed at citizens, for what they think is breaking in lines. We've had some very uncouth things happening, but in saying all that, I've seen so much more good than I've possibly seen bad. I mean, I'm watching neighbors of all different races, all different age groups, all different ethnicities just come together and help their brothers and sisters. And that's what Spartanburg County has been about for a long time. I tried to tell everybody Spartanburg was the best, and they just wouldn't listen.
We're joined live by Chuck Wright, Spartanburg County Sheriff on the Fan Upstate. Chuck, can you tell us, we've seen a lot of officers, or I've seen a lot of officers here in Greenville that were out directing traffic, but as those systems are coming back online, they're being redeployed to different areas. Can you give us an idea of where Spartanburg's officers are being deployed right now and where they're needed the most?
Well, it's pretty much everywhere, but it got hit really hard around on the south side of town, on the south end of town, and the west side. Landrum and Campobella got hammered pretty hard. As you can imagine, they're very close to the mountains up there, so there's a lot of stuff happening to them. But Doug Bryson and his team, has done a fantastic job of getting things in place and getting people in place that will help make life a little bit better for them. So, I just want you to keep praying for the first responders, please. And I've seen so many of our first responders. I can only speak for Spartanburg County. I can't speak for these municipalities. I know the municipalities have been doing this. I just don't know exactly which ones, but I got deputies coming in on their off time, and they're bringing their own chainsaws, and they're going to help people. That they were been riding around their area and they see trees down or what have you. They just been going around helping people and obviously not charging anything, not taking any payment. And that's what the Lord blessed me to get to go work with every day.
That's what it's all about for sure. Chuck Wright joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. We are a sports station, but obviously covering this storm and what it did to the Upstate. Has your department seen in Spartanburg an uptick in crimes? I know looting has been happening in other parts of the state and North Carolina as well.
Well, we've seen a few, but like I said on my news interview, you got business owners that are sleeping in their business because the power and everything is out. If you go in there to steal something and get blown out of there with a gun, I really don't want to talk to you. I would just move on to the next call. And I ain't trying. Listen, I'm kind of being a little bit funny on that, but I don't want anybody to get hurt. I'm asking people, come on, man. Right. I mean, you already got somebody down. They're losing business. They have to pay their rent just like us, and people are stealing from them. I don't understand that mentality. Now's the time to show what kind of person you really are. You might not be able to do much, but something is better than nothing. I've been watching neighborhoods where kids are playing in the yard. They having fun throwing sticks out of the yard. I mean, just stupid little things like that bring the community together. I'm watching neighbors cook out together. Somebody bring the drinks, somebody bring the food. It's fantastic to see the community coming together, because I want to remind everybody of something. Our forefathers and mothers used to live like this all the time. This was nothing new to them. They didn't have power. I found out really quick that I'm spoiled. I can go cut a light on. I cut the air conditioner down or cut the heat up, take a warm shower. Now those things are more of a pleasure than they are a convenience. So everybody stay together, stay still, be patient. Just it ain't all about you. It's about all of us. Please check on your neighbors. Don't assume everybody's good. Check on them.
We're joined live by the Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright here on the Fan Upstate. We've seen a lot of people on social media feeling frustrated and forgotten by power crews. Can you talk about the efforts that your department's making to maybe help out the lower income members of Spartanburg so they realize that they're not forgotten in this process?
Yeah, of course I can. And I want you to know something. The MVPs are not linemen that play in any football game. It's these guys that are staying out, 14, 15, 16 hours a day hanging on the side of a wooden pole, putting their life in jeopardy to make sure that you got your conveniences restored. I've seen a ton of people helping. I've seen people bringing food to these linemen, to these officers. I want to remind everybody, the officers that serve your community, we're not immune to this either. I don't have power. There's a bunch of deputies and first responders all over this country, or all over this county, especially North Carolina. My gosh, if you don't pray for anything, pray for the rescue efforts in North Carolina. I had a first responder that has some contacts in North Carolina, and I also saw it on Facebook too that I think President Donald Trump was actually talking about this. He met a lady, and this guy was telling me she woke up Friday morning and 10 of her family members are gone. A lot of us in this community listening to us have never lost 10 family members in their lifetime. This poor lady lost 10 in one night. So when you start thinking about the inconvenience, please consider that.
Without a doubt. We appreciate you touching on that, Sheriff. I don't know if you know this or not, but we did get news that Charlotte Motor Speedway, Sheriff, has opened up for non-perishables, canned foods, water bottles, that sort of thing. So I don't know if anybody in the upstate has planned on going up to Charlotte to drop these items off. They're going to be taking them to North Wilkesboro Speedway and then delivering them. Is there anything that you know of that our residents in Spartanburg County can do to come together and help out those in Western North Carolina?
I think what we'll have to do is you have to keep looking at the emergency management guys on our Facebook page. And by the way, while we're live, we're not going to call and ask you to make any payments to anything because of this storm. So there's going to be scammers out there. There are going to be people trying to take advantage of you. Just be very cautious who you give your information to. And there's going to be a lot of fake GoFundMe. And would you like to donate to Western North Carolina? If it's Samaritan's Purse, go to Samaritan's Purse website. If you want to donate money, that would be the ones I would tell you about, because not only are they going to rescue them, feed them, clean them, they're going to feed them the word of Jesus Christ, which is the only thing that we really need.
Sheriff, we appreciate you taking time to hop on with us. Really means a lot. And stay safe out there. All your deputies and those working under, we appreciate them as well.
Thank you, my friend. You have a great day.
You too. That's Sheriff Chuck Wright of Spartanburg County. You said it, earlier talking to him, Diesel, just so many right now that are, out there looking for things and looking for items. And, I hadn't talked about the scams yet. That's an interesting part of it. And I'm glad he brought that up, because there will be. And you know what? To his point, there will be a lot of people who fall for that. And that's a great message. Make sure that you aren't just giving to any organization out there or any GoFundMe on Facebook, because I'm sure there will be a lot of, sadly, there will be.
Yeah. And he touched on, the frustrations of people out in public who are understandably exhausted, frustrated, probably, they hadn't showered in 3 or 4 days. They hadn't had a hot meal, but, in a couple of days. And so people are really pushed to the brink. And that's why you have situations get potentially violent in public. He talked about people pulling guns on people because, they're in a situation of desperation. And so I think it's very important to remember to have a little extra understanding when we're out in public, when we're dealing, especially in the communities that are the hardest hit. Those are the people who are going to be feeling this the most right now. I mean, again, I am extremely lucky extremely lucky and grateful to have not sustained major damage in my home, but there's a lot of people out there who have. So you see somebody out in public who seems like they're going through a hard time, go out of your way to be extra kind to them and extra understanding of them. I was telling you the story about being down in Piedmont the other day, and I was at that Dollar General Markets, and a couple of customers started getting chippy at each other, and another customer joined in, and threats were levied, and that's not what we need in this situation. You know, the lady who was yelling at the gentleman who was being a jerk to the cashier, she has no idea what that guy just lost. Potentially, that guy could have just had a tree go through his house, and he is grieving, and he doesn't know what to do or how to act right now. Or the guy could just be a jerk. I don't know the answer to that question, but you know, I would hope that she would next time this happens, be a little bit more compassionate and say, "Sir, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you've seen and what has happened to you in the past 24 hours. But you know, let us know. Is there anything we can do to help you?"
And you know, sadly, Diesel, to your point, I hate this, but the reality is, during times like this, we find that there are still, as Chuck Wright said perfectly, there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of shoddy people out there. And I say shoddy because I can't say the other word, right? I mean, that's just being very frank. There are shoddy people out there who you see them in the face of panic and things become chaotic. To your point, I'm telling you, man, I've seen a lot of like images, you know, throughout my life, whether it be sporting events or, you know, just moments of your life that you always kind of have captured in your mind. Friday night, seeing those gas stations in Bowling Springs where I was, that's something that I'll never get out of my head. I mean, you know where Bowling Springs, we met the QT one time right there, and the line not only down Highway 9, but down 85, like one lane of 85 was the line. And just seeing those images of everybody rushing in and only taking cash, and people, you know, for the most part were calm, but you had those crazies, you know, those shoddy, wonderful people that we love, you know, those just wild-haired guys that will go off on a spur. They're the ones that make it tough on everybody. So I'll say one more time, if you know of things that can help your neighbors, the other Tolos out there in our audience, text into the show, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We'd also like to hear from you on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. That's 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Diesel, for all the bad out there, you and I in the past 2 days and 3 days on Friday have seen a lot of good. Tolos offering their generators, offering places to shower, offering, you know, churches that were having their gyms and their schools turn into places to get fed. There's a lot of good out there, and that's what makes it heartwarming.
Yeah, and you know, I know that what we experienced personally on Friday is what a lot of people are still experiencing today. The panic and the desperation, not knowing where you're going to get your next bottle of water, not knowing where you're going to get your next meal. If you know anyone who's dealing with that, or if you're dealing with that, number one, we appreciate you tuning into the station. I understand that you're going through a lot. Reach out to your local services instead of rushing out, desperately looking for things, potentially wasting resources to go find more resources. Call your local sheriff's department, call your local police department, call your local church. A lot of these places have systems and personnel already up and running on these things. Allow them to bring that stuff to you so that you know, you can stay where you're needed the most and have that stuff delivered to you instead of going out and rushing and panicking and searching.
Yeah, and then you'll get lost and go to the like, I mean, Western North Carolina right now is devastated, right? Everybody wants to knee-jerk and go run up there and deliver all these. Wait, first of all, you don't even know how to get there.
Yeah.
Second of all, you might get lost or injured or hurt. And third of all, you might make it more challenging for those who are trying to get in and actually be of help. The smart solution is to do what Diesel said also with like Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's a great option. Take your stuff. It's an hour from here, right? An hour from Spartanburg. Take your stuff up there to Charlotte Motor Speedway. If you and a buddy have a truckload, you go up to Charlotte, where, by the way, I was there or I've seen pictures and have heard of people. It's normal up there. I mean, the grocery stores, I've seen a couple of Tolos texted in over, I believe it was yesterday, The grocery stores are just fine there. They're not in the desperate need like we are here. So you can go up there, buy all the groceries up there, the canned goods. I bet you could buy, a truckload of canned goods and water bottles and not spend a couple $100. So it'd be a really good thing to do. And all the Tolos out there who are continuing to struggle, whether it be power or food, again, text relief to 71307. Diesel, we've had over 100 texts now.
That's great.
With the word relief, trying to get relief right here in the upstate.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to mention that Chuck Wright, Sheriff of Spartanburg County, touched on the likelihood of scammers out there. There's people who have trees down in their homes, and so scammers are running around saying, hey, there's more storms coming. You need to pay us right now to get started on your roof, and then they disappear. As of right now, as far as we know, there are no storms. And you mentioned this yesterday. Perella Lewis from the news said there are no storms planning that we believe are going to impact the upstate right now. So if anybody tries to scam you and say you need to pay me to start working on your home right now because more storms are coming, that is false. That is not real information. Be discerning, especially when it comes to, big purchase items. Also, there's people out there. I don't know. I don't know what this individual was up to last night, but on our way back home from Spartanburg, Cole, we saw a gentleman by the side of the road, pickup truck, flatbed trailer with 10 or so generators on the back of the flatbed truck. And I would like to believe that guy is a good Samaritan who is able to get a hold of these things and is able to pass them along or sell them at cost to individuals that really, really need them. But certainly, if you're online or you hear a tip from somebody about a generator for sale, make sure the thing's in functioning, working condition before you give somebody maybe a couple of $100 in cash.
Yeah.
And then they just disappear and you can't get your money back and you still don't have a generator. So be careful with all things that you're being asked to spend money on right now.
And to your point about the fear, right? What do they call it? Panic. They try to push the narrative of fear and panic. Look, we're in hurricane season. Yes, more hurricanes are going to come. Yes, it's going to rain again. So let's not continue. I've seen a lot of this on Facebook, posting Diesel about, there's another one coming. Well, guess what? There's going to be like 6 more probably by the end of hurricane season.
Potentially weeks from now.
Right, potentially. And that's the nature of it. It's going to rain again. It might not rain today, but it's going to happen. That's just the nature of it. However, we hope that it's not as bad. They're not as bad as what we just experienced, because what we experienced just now was tragic. I mean, I've seen now from our texters to Cary Johnson of Broad River, who we had on, Diesel, I have heard numerous accounts of people who said this was much worse than Hugo in terms of the devastation and impact that this hurricane brought to the upstate. So, again, let's not panic. Let's not fear. Chuck Wright said it best. Let's rally together, help those out, help the neighbors out. And you know what? Hopefully, I believe you said this yesterday, Diesel, hopefully, once this dust all settles, once we get back to normal, I hope and I pray that we can remember what we did for each other during this time and make that an everyday occurrence, right? Make that something that we do every day and we live by, and we don't let mainstream media and politics divide us anymore.
What was the number you shared earlier, the amount of rainfall that came down on the eastern side of the U.S. from this hurricane?
Trillions. And in fact, I have it right here on, this was an article by WYFF, 40 trillion gallons of water, Diesel. You could fill up the Cowboys stadium 51,000 times, or Lake Tahoe just once. But that's a lot of freaking water, man.
Yeah. And again, we're feeling for the people who are dealing with this. If you need some help, if you want to provide some help and you don't know where to go to get it or to provide it, text the word relief to 71307. That's RELIEF. You'll get a link sent to your phone with information on how you can provide assistance and how you can get assistance. So text the word relief to 71307. Cole, I didn't get to watch it last night. Maybe you did because your power is back on. Mine is not, but I missed perfection on Monday Night Football. I want to talk about just what happened for Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions against the Seahawks last night. and ask you, Tolos, what is the most elite athletic performance you've ever personally had? Not in the bedroom with the wife. I don't need to know about that. What's the most elite athletic performance you've ever had? We'll talk about that next on the Fan Upstate. Have you ever been perfect in your life, Cole?
Never.
I'm not talking like big picture stuff. Nobody's perfect big picture, but at least for a couple of hours, Jared Goff, quarterback of the Detroit Lions, was perfect last night.
He was.
Monday Night Football against the Seahawks. I didn't get a chance to watch because I still don't have power.
I've got the power.
But he went 18 for 18, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's about as good as it gets. To put up massive numbers like that and only be asked to throw the ball 18 times, Cole, is just it's mind-boggling.
And passing's down, right? League wide. That's the new norm right now. So I did get a chance to watch it. I am very, very fortunate to have power. And my internet came back on yesterday as well, so I'm not having to use the old hotspot to watch TV. So I'm very fortunate, very blessed to have power and internet. I'll tell you this, that game was the only watchable game. The other game last night wasn't watchable between the Titans and the Dolphins. But Jared Goff, after watching that, Diesel, and his performance against a very good Seattle team, by the way, Geno Smith and Seattle really impressed me. However, right now, Detroit's the best offense in the NFL. Now, their defense is suspect, but what they did last night, the two-headed monster they have at running back, they look unstoppable.
The defense did force 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
You know, they intercepted Geno Smith. There was a fumble. Now, again, I didn't get to watch it, so you'd have to tell me exactly how that fumble happened, whether it was a forced fumble or whether the running back just dropped the ball. But, you know, I'm blown away because when you look at the numbers on this game, it looks fairly pedestrian. When you just look at, all right, here's how many yards this guy had, here's how many yards that guy had, it doesn't really blow you away. You know, the Lions leading receiver, Jameson Williams,
so good.
80 yards. Okay, that's a good game.
Yeah.
Not really blow you away. But when you say that 5 Lions receivers had 40 yards or more,
Sure.
Jameson Williams had 80. Okay, now it starts to add up to something really impressive. Jahmyr Gibbs ran the ball 14 times for 78 yards. And you say, well, that's not really all that impressive, 78 yards in an NFL game. But he also had 2 touchdowns. One of them was a big-time 20-yard touchdown run. And when you start adding all of this up, you say, wow, that's how you get to a dominant performance with a 42-29 final score. And I'm going to tell you, man, Dan Campbell has all the rights in the world to say, you know what, enough with Detroit. I'm gone. I'm going somewhere where they appreciate me, because this head coach, remember, this head coach is the one who just sold his multi-million-dollar home in the suburbs of Detroit because his daughter's high school friend doxed his address to the internet. And multiple fans arrived at Dan Campbell's home after losing in the AFC Championship game last year and were harassing his home.
Yeah, you know, the only reason I said that, I felt like the Lions defense was a little suspect last night. You're right. They did force 2 turnovers. However, Seattle Diesel 516 yards of total offense. Yeah. 500 yards of offense on an NFL defense. That's one thing they're going to have to clean up. But I'll tell you this, I think I'm eating crow a little bit. I didn't think Jared Goff would be like the difference maker. Mm-hmm. You know, he never really impressed me much when he was in L.A. Then he gets traded. He's looked really, really good. I see.
Situation matters, you know?
Oh, 100%. I see, when I watch this football team, I see Detroit becoming a mini San Francisco Diesel. What I mean is San Francisco, several years ago, when they started this dominance, even though they haven't won it all yet, when they started this dominance with Jimmy G and all this talent and adding Brendan Ayuk and their stud defense and Fred Williams and now Devo, right? That's what I'm starting to see happen in Detroit. They've got the dudes, and those guys with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, nobody in the NFL has a better 1-2 back than Detroit does. Nobody has a more consistent quarterback. Jared Goff's making me eat crow. 18 of 18, that's just unheard of. And you're right, it wasn't a big night, you know, statistically, because they're not having to do a ton. This this offense that you're watching with Detroit Diesel, they're just so balanced. They're so balanced. They have every single aspect of this offense down pat. And I know that the Vikings offense is good. Baltimore's offense is good. But when I look at the totality of the National Football League, Detroit, they're making me – I didn't believe in them. I didn't think they'd be able to get back to the NFC Championship this year. They did it last year. I'd questioned whether they could do it 2 years in a row. But they're making me a believer. 42 points. Despite giving up 500-plus yards, they're making me a believer of themselves.
Well, lucky for them, they are now in a very fortunate position where they know they've got their offense more or less figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Now they get to start focusing all of their efforts, trades, draft, et cetera. They get to focus that on the defensive side of the football, and that's how you build into a dominant team in the NFL. And that's the Carolina Panthers are so far away from that. They're trying to figure out who their quarterback's going to be next year.
God.
Right? So – if you're a Detroit Lions fan, just back off the coach a little bit. Let him figure it out. Let him enjoy the journey. Don't get mad that it didn't happen for you this season.
Sure.
Understand that it's a building process to get there. Detroit has been so down bad for such a long time. Hell, just making the AFC Championship game is as good as it's been for the Detroit Lions in a long, long time. So enjoy the process, would you?
Yeah, you need to. And I'll say one more thing on Detroit. You mentioned their offense being set. The only thing I would say is, the only concern I'd have, I've seen it with my team, Diesel, and the Cowboys, and I've also seen it years and years in the NFL with other teams.
Mm-hmm.
My only concern with Detroit is that they're peaking too early. It's October the 1st. We just went through the first month. Well, not even a month into the NFL season, right? Just almost a month now into the NFL season. I think this team will be there. They'll be in the postseason. They'll be competing for an NFC championship, I believe. However, we know that the NFL season's a long season, right? We're talking months left on the table. So the only concern I'd have is that they somehow get stagnant down the stretch, start, self-inflicting wounds. I don't think it'll happen. However, I don't want to be peaking on October the 1st. I want to be peaking on December the 1st.
Compare the 18 pass attempts by Jared Goff, and by the way, a wide receiver for the Lions threw the ball one time and completed the pass. When you got two different guys, one of them not even a quarterback, completing passes, and you go 19 for 19 as a team on the game, compare that to the fact that Carson Beck threw the ball 50 times in Saturday's game for Georgia. And that means you need to give some credit to Alabama. The way they put Georgia so deep in a hole that Carson Beck had no choice but to throw the football, and that they had to throw it 50 times to get back into that game. I mean, it's mind-boggling what they were able to do, shutting down the Georgia run in the first half and the second half of that football game, because 50 times for Carson Beck to just 18 passes on Sunday for Jared Goff. And all coaches say that's what they want to do. They all say they want to be balanced. They all say they want to run the ball a little bit more than they throw the ball. And we've even heard Dave Canales say, I want to be stubborn about running the football. I want to run the football more than we throw the football. And, that's what these coaches want to do. And Detroit is putting on a masterclass of doing that. But my question, to honor Jared Goff's perfection, 18 for 18, Monday Night Football against the Seahawks last night, what is the most elite athletic performance that you've ever had? Cole, you're an athlete. Everybody knows this. We can look at you and tell you that you're a finely tuned athlete.
Yeah.
Hunting is a sport. I mean,
thankfully, and fishing,
So have you ever had a day when you're out hunting or out fishing where you were just on it? Something that happened, the fishing gods or the hunting gods shined down on you, and you were just you were getting them left and right. Good ones too, not little 1 pound squeakers, because we've all had that day.
I felt that way when I've been. I don't do it a lot. I need to do it more. I do some competitive skeet shooting. Yeah, and I have had those days. Now they haven't been as of late. The last few times I've shot skeet, I have not been good. But you didn't shoot the skeet. That's right. They kept flying and I kept shooting and missing.
They broke when they hit the ground.
That's right.
But you didn't break.
But I have had days where I've been in tournaments, and it's been a while because I don't practice near as much as I should. I've had days in tournaments where I can knock them down. And again, it takes practice, but those days don't come off.
I think there was only one time. So I'm not an athlete myself either. I played baseball in high school, not very good. I remember one time in middle school. That's the only time I've ever felt like I was on it.
Yeah.
Playing a pickup game of basketball, and I was knocking them down one after the other to the point where dudes were like, you got to guard him. He's a shooter.
Oh, wow.
That's the only time in my entire life
was Steph Curry.
Anyone's ever said that about me. Watch out for him. He's a shooter. I couldn't miss. I couldn't miss in that game. And guess what? We played another pickup game after that. Couldn't hit a damn thing.
Joe raised the goal.
No, it was standard height. It was standard height.
I tried to get you on that one.
Yeah, it was a little tight goal. We used to have one of those here in the studio. I don't know what happened.
Need to replace it.
Those were fun.
You know, one more thing I'll say on the amount of plays. You mentioned 18 passes, right? I did pull up this statistic. What I thought one thing that I thought, rather, Diesel, that was very interesting about last night's game compared to Alabama. When you talk about Jared Goff being 18 of 18, let's look at this statistic. They ran only 50 plays last night. They ran 50 plays compared to Seattle ran 78 plays. So you're talking almost 30 more plays. What's even more impressive than the 18 of 18 is that the fact that the Detroit Lions ran 50 plays and on 50 plays scored 42 points. Now, you compare that to Alabama, Georgia. You mentioned Carson Beck. What did you say? He threw it like 98 times?
Yeah.
That's close. 50.
50 times.
50 times. Georgia on Saturday night against Alabama ran 76 plays. So they're able to, at the college game, we're talking about, 26 more plays in one game that they're able to run. I don't know what that is, what the reasoning for that is, but I would like to know on average how many more plays a college team runs in a game versus NFL, because you look at the Lions, who ran 50 plays and scored almost 50 points, and Georgia, who ran 76 plays, and you said Carson Beck threw the ball a lot. That's an interesting stat, and really goes to show that Jared Goff's night was that much more impressive.
And the fact that, the Detroit Lions only possessed the ball for 26 minutes in that ballgame, scored 42 points. I mean, they were playing such an efficient amount of football, such an efficient level of football, where they were picking up 12 yards per pass. They were picking up 4 yards per rush in that game. It wasn't even a phenomenal rushing football game.
Yeah.
I mean, you start to see, you start to ask yourself, how do these numbers add up to 42-29?
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I realize that the Seattle Seahawks turned the ball over twice. Geno Smith threw a pick, and they had a fumble in that game as well. But that doesn't really account for 42 points in only 25 minutes of holding the football.
What's the latest when it comes to high school football now, with schools in the upstate being out all week? We'll get into that discussion next.
Leave your namby-pamby sports takes at the door. Call in if you're man enough.
844.
Had a lot of people ask me personally, direct text message, Twitter. We've had texts on our text line as well. These will ask about high school football games, right? There was supposed to be some last night. Obviously, those got rescheduled. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of high school football, one thing that really upsets me is, Diesel, sadly, there are people in this world that when it comes to high school football, like I get that different media outlets and different radio stations rely on high school football for income from sponsorships and things like that, and that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that, right? You got to make a living, and if high school football helps you make a living, nothing wrong with that. However, the insensitivity that I've seen and heard from other people locally here in the upstate about, we should be playing Friday night. Other radio show hosts here in the upstate who have a lot to do with high school football, I think that's so insensitive. I think right now there are a million things bigger than if you're going to play your little high school football game. And look, Diesel, there's very few people who love high school football like I do. I absolutely love it. I live and breathe it. I've been covering it for 12 years on the radio, and it's my favorite thing to do during the course of a year is cover high school football. But if you're getting upset about high school games not being played Friday, regardless of if your income depends on it or not, you need to grow up. You need to move on. Like, that's so insensitive, and it's sad that we have people that act that way.
Yeah, tone deafness is an epidemic. Not in just even in times of crisis, but it's kind of always a problem. People are very selfish. They only think about themselves, and I get it if your livelihood depends on you broadcasting a game or being working at the game. I understand the hardship of losing that income. I really, really do. But there are bigger things at play here. Yeah. You're probably not going to starve because you didn't work a high school game on a Friday night.
Right.
So, we just have a little more consideration and think, hey, now that I have this Friday night off, what can I do to help others who are dealing with a worse situation than what I have?
Absolutely.
Right now.
That's a great way to look at it. I'm so over it. I've heard too much of it from other people telling me what they've heard. I'm just over it. Like you said it, tone deaf, insensitive. This is not the end all be all. We all love high school football here in the upstate, and those that cover it, my buddies who are in the same circles that I'm in, we all love it. However, what's happened this week? Like, come on, bro. You know who you are. You know the ones that are out there, tooting the horn of we should be playing Friday. That's the last thing. We should not be playing high school football this Friday night. I want to play as bad as anybody, but for goodness sake, we just got hit by a freaking hurricane.
Rules are rules. You were talking earlier, you talked yesterday about them not having classes this week, not having school this week. That means they can't practice this week. That means they can't play this week. It's not the coach's decision. It's not the athletic director's decision. It's not the player's decision. It's the state of South Carolina High School Football League decision to not play. And they have valid reasons for having created those rules back whenever they created those rules. But now there's also unprecedented times where a lot of people are struggling with a lot of things. So
unprecedented,
why not try to organize a way where those players who are on those teams can come together and help out the community? You see it all the time where high school football teams and college football teams, they do their community outreach and they do their community service. This could be potentially a good way to keep them involved with one another. Those that can, right? Those who are not dealing with massive issues at home themselves, those that can bring them together. And
that's a good idea.
Bring the teams together to help the players on the teams who are dealing with really tough situations.
Absolutely.
Some of them probably have trees down in their homes right now.
Yep.
So find ways to maybe get the team involved. And those are the things that galvanize a team, right? That make them feel more together and might actually improve them as a team down the road.
Now, as far as the games being played, look, the majority of teams in the upstate did not play last week. There were a handful of teams that did play on Wednesday. Broome, Blacksburg did. Burns and Dorman did. We were very fortunate to get that game. And obviously, hindsight, looking back on it, everybody wishes they could have moved the Wednesday. People just underestimated what this storm was going to bring, and thought that Friday was still a realistic option, thought Saturday was a realistic option. And, if you asked all these decision makers now, of course, they'd say, yeah, we should have moved the Wednesday. That way we would only lose 1 week. However, they didn't. And now a lot of teams are facing the fact of losing last week's game and this week's game. If this happened 3 weeks ago, you'd probably see a lot of cancellations. However, Diesel region plays here. So you can't just scratch. You can't just cancel region games, right? They, for the most part, have to be played. And, I said yesterday, in 2016, they extended the season. They pushed the playoffs back. We had buys in the upstate while the lower state caught up on games that they missed earlier in the season due to flooding from a hurricane. So I would expect, I don't have any breaking news. I'm still inquiring, still trying to find out, Diesel. I would expect it to be a very similar situation this season where the regular season comes to an end and they have a bye or two built in, maybe a bye before the last regular season game, then the last regular season game, then another bye for the playoffs or for the lower part of the state while we catch up on our games up here, and then the playoffs begin. But that's, again, as more information comes out, I'll have it for you.
Cole, when we come back, we're going to replay an interview that we had earlier in the show today with Cary Johnson. Cary Johnson is the COO of which
Broad River
yep. Electric. Some fantastic information that he was able to give out. We understand that a lot of people in our listening audience are still dealing with power outages and dealing with issues, dealing with maybe even still having trees and debris down on power lines. He gave us some fantastic information on their processes, how they're able to get personnel into the upstate to start working on those lines and give you some understanding as to maybe why the neighborhood across the road from you is on and you are not, to help you maybe build a little extra patience into your day. That's coming up next right here on the Fan Upstate.
But it works. You start at the substation, and then you start pushing out what we call the 3-phase tap feeders. And then we have single-phase taps that comes off of that. So probably the biggest thing you're going to see over the next few days, and this is the way we choose to restore the power, is get on what we can. And so that means the main line's got to come on first. And then we catch all the taps. Now, I have been in Florida working storms before where they just left everything off so they could bring it all on, but at one time. But we want to get as many as we can and help as many people as possible. So it is very possible one neighbor could have power and one neighbor may not. And so if one phase is out and one phase is on, that's how that happens. So working hard. So we start the substation and we push it out till we get to the very end. And that's where we're at now. And we're working on it. We got crews all over Spartanburg, Union, Cherokee County accomplishing that.
Cary, this may be a question you haven't gotten, as I know your phones have been busy since all of this happened on Thursday evening, Friday morning. But I'll tell you what, man, when I see these guys at work, they don't get a lot of gratification. They don't get a lot of praise during the year. This is not a job that we talk about and say, hey, when you grow up, you should be a lineman. But I'll tell you what, man, after seeing what I've seen the past few days, my appreciation and respect for them is at an all-time high. For somebody out there listening that may have a kid in the car with them as well, that when they see all these guys at work, maybe for the first time in their entire life, they want to grow up and be a lineman. What would you say to somebody out there listening that may be thinking that same thing?
Exactly. I very gratifying line to be in. And they some different from when I come up. There's some lineman school, tech schools out there now that have classes, and that gives a man a leg up coming out into the field, just like any time you go to a technical school. And it's labor intensive, it's challenging at times, but at the end of the day, after a big storm like this, it's very gratifying to be able to look back and see what you've done.
Cary, for the linemen themselves, we can go 100 yards from where we're sitting in our studios right now, and there's a base camp for a whole slew of crews out there. For the individual workers themselves, how long are they being pushed individually to work a shift and then to take a long break? I mean, are they getting some time off as well?
Yeah, Cole, Diesel, we trying to rest them as much as we can. When I say that, when it gets 9, 10 o'clock at night, we try to have them fed. Now then we have what we call the third shift ones that go out and continue to work. So we're working them in shifts that way. And the motels, there's several around that we have them throughout the 3 counties. A lot of the motels don't have power. So I was just talking to a crew a while ago. They're over in Spartanburg. The motel does not have power, but the owners, the groups have been gracious to them. They've got up and cooked them breakfast on grills and stuff in the morning, even though we've had breakfast brought in. They said, hey, we're just going to grab our breakfast and go, Cary. We'll be out on the system working. So, yeah, even Broad River's linemen, probably lots of those do not have power, myself included, and that's okay. We all know what it's about, and so they're working. The biggest thing is some of them, they get in a shower, but it's the water's not too warm. How about that?
Cary Johnson joins us right here on the Fan Upstate. Cary is the COO at Broad River Electric Cooperative. Cary, to your point about the showers, it's tough, and a lot of people in the upstate in the same situation. Just because a lot of power is on, there's still a lot without. You told me on Friday that we'd be talking about this again next Friday, which it seems as if you're going to be right. When you look at where we are today on Tuesday, do you feel like we've made good progress in getting back to full restoration, if you will?
Yes, most definitely, Cole. Like I said, the substation's powers are back on. We've been out working ever since the storm hit. But with the substations on now, when we get a line rebuilt, we're able to energize it. Where in the very few days at the beginning, we was not able to. So definitely making a lot of progress. For us, I know we probably still have 150 broke poles on our system. I know Blue Ridge Co-op up and around the Pickens area probably has north of 400 and something poles down. But we are making progress every day. Things start looking better and better. So every day we getting into this thing is a better day. I will say that.
We're joined live by Cary Johnson from Broad River Electric Co-op. Do crews deployed or assigned to an area stay until all customers in that area are back on, or are they being peeled off at a few at a time to go service other areas?
Probably, and that's a good question. Best thing, as we was talking about earlier, those main feeder lines, and they're trying to get all of those on first, and then they'll come back and get the tap lines off of that. Now, if it's a big enough crew, they may be grabbing some taps as they go, and you say, well, why is it that way? Without that main feeder line on, those taps don't, they have nothing that, no power to them. So we got to get that main feeder on first, just like we had to do the substation, get it on first. So if they're in your area, they're not going far. And that's probably what everybody wants to know is when am I going to get back on? Nobody wants to be forgotten. And believe me, we ain't going to do that. Have any questions, please reach out to our hotlines and let us know. But we're going to get everybody, I promise you. And we're going to get them as quick as we can. But there will be times that one neighbor has power and the one won't. And I guess I want to emphasize those linemen out there. I know Tempers is flaring with the public, and they're doing all they can. But and a lot of times they don't have the answers. So we've had just a few incidents, but if people will stand down, let them do their job.
My last question for you, Cary, do customers who still haven't been restored, do they need to continue reporting outages, or do you, Duke, and the other electric providers around here, do you know who is out and who you need to go fix?
Yes, but the mapping systems nowadays, we know pretty much all of it. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong still with reporting the outages. I encourage people to do that. And at the end, we want to make sure we've got everybody, you know what I'm saying? And as like I said last Friday, we'll still be talking about it this Friday.
Well, Cary, we appreciate you hopping on with us to give us another update. I don't know how many linemen I can fit in my 2-bedroom apartment, but if they need a place to stay, send them my way. Appreciate you, Cary.
I thank you very much, Cole, and maybe we can come Friday. We'll have a better outlook on this thing. But everything I can tell you today is positive. We are making a lot of progress.
Continuing to keep you updated on what's going on post-Hurricane Helene. Welcome into hour number 3 of the program. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. So good to be with you. Remember to text RELIEF to 71307. Again, RELIEF to 71307. If you need a link to ways that you can get support, or if you know someone that needs it. We're joined now by Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright. We heard you earlier today, Sheriff, on our sister station 98.9, which is just across the hall from us. I know you've been busy. We appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. But now that you've had a few nights to sleep on all of this, what are your thoughts on what you've seen in the past 4 days from Hurricane Helene?
You said something about sleep. What's that? All right. Well, listen, there have been some crazy things going on. We had 3 people killed in Woodruff, like on Saturday night, and it was over trespassing, and it was crazy stuff. We've had guns being pointed at citizens, for what they think is breaking in lines. We've had some very uncouth things happening, but in saying all that, I've seen so much more good than I've possibly seen bad. I mean, I'm watching neighbors of all different races, all different age groups, all different ethnicities, just come together and help their brothers and sisters. And that's what Spartanburg County has been about for a long time. I tried to tell everybody Spartanburg was the best. They just wouldn't listen.
We're joined live by Chuck Wright, Spartanburg County Sheriff on the Fan Upstate. Chuck, can you tell us, we've seen a lot of officers, or I've seen a lot of officers here in Greenville that were out directing traffic, but as those systems are coming back online, they're being redeployed to different areas. Can you give us an idea of where Spartanburg's officers are being deployed right now and where they're needed the most?
Well, it's pretty much everywhere, but it got hit really hard on the south side of town, on the south end of town, and the west side. Landrum and Campobella got hammered pretty hard. As you can imagine, they're very close to the mountains up there, so there's a lot of stuff happening to them. But Doug Bryson and his team has done a fantastic job of getting things in place and getting people in place that will help make life a little bit better for them. So, I just want you to keep praying for the first responders, please. And I've seen so many of our first responders. I can only speak for Spartanburg County. I can't speak for these municipalities. I know the municipalities have been doing this. I just don't know exactly which ones, but I got deputies coming in on their off time, and they're bringing their own chainsaws, and they're going to help people. That they been riding around their area and they see trees down or what have you. They've just been going around helping people and obviously not charging anything, not taking any payment. And that's what the Lord blessed me to get to go work with every day.
That's what it's all about for sure. Chuck Wright joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. We are a sports station, but obviously covering this storm and what it did to the Upstate. Has your department seen in Spartanburg an uptick in crimes? I know looting has been happening in other parts of the state and North Carolina as well.
Well, we've seen a few, but like I said on my news interview, you got business owners that are sleeping in their business because the power and everything is out. If you go in there to steal something and get blown out of there with a gun, I really don't want to. I want to talk to you. I would just move on to the next call. And I ain't trying. Listen, I'm kind of being a little bit funny on that, but I don't want anybody to get hurt. I'm asking people, come on, man. Right. I mean, you already got somebody down. They're losing business. They have to pay their rent just like us, and people are stealing from them. I don't understand that mentality. Now's the time to show what kind of person you really are. You might not be able to do much, but something is better than nothing. I've been watching neighborhoods where kids are playing in the yard. They having fun throwing sticks out of the yard. I mean, just stupid little things like that bring the community together. I'm watching neighbors cook out together. Somebody will bring the drinks, somebody will bring the food. It's fantastic to see the community coming together, because I want to remind everybody of something. Our forefathers and mothers used to live like this all the time. This was nothing new to them. They didn't have power. I found out really quick that I'm spoiled. I can go cut a light on, I cut the air conditioner down, or cut the heat up, take a warm shower. Now those things are more of a pleasure than they are a convenience. So everybody stay together, stay still, be patient. It ain't all about you. It's about all of us. Please check on your neighbors. Don't assume everybody's good. Check on them.
We're joined live by the Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright here on the Fan Upstate. We've seen a lot of people on social media feeling frustrated and forgotten by power crews. Can you talk about the efforts that your department's making to maybe help out the lower income members of Spartanburg so they realize that they're not forgotten in this process?
Yeah, of course I can. And I want you to know something. The MVPs are not linemen that play in any football game. It's these guys that are staying out, 14, 15, 16 hours a day hanging on the side of a wooden pole, putting their life in jeopardy to make sure that you got your conveniences restored. I've seen a ton of people helping. I've seen people bringing food to these linemen, to these officers. I want to remind everybody, the officers that serve your community, we're not immune to this either. I don't have power. There's a bunch of deputies and first responders all over this country, or all over this county, especially North Carolina. My gosh, if you don't pray for anything, pray for the rescue efforts in North Carolina. You know, I had a first responder that has some contacts in North Carolina, and I also saw it on Facebook too that I think President Donald Trump was actually talking about this. He met a lady, and this guy was telling me she woke up Friday morning and 10 of her family members are gone. You know, a lot of us in this community listening to us have never lost 10 family members in their lifetime. This poor lady lost 10 in one night. So when you start thinking about the inconvenience, please consider that.
Without a doubt. We appreciate you touching on that, Sheriff. I don't know if you know this or not, but we did get news that Charlotte Motor Speedway, Sheriff, has opened up for non-perishables, canned foods, water bottles, that sort of thing. So I don't know if anybody in the upstate has planned on going up to Charlotte to drop these items off. They're going to be taking them to North Wilkesboro Speedway and then delivering them. Is there anything that you know of that our residents in Spartanburg County can do to come together and help out those in Western North Carolina?
You know, I think what we'll have to do is you have to keep looking at the emergency management guys on our Facebook page. And, you know, and by the way, while we're live, we're not going to call and ask you to make any payments to anything because of this storm. So there's going to be scammers out there. There are going to be people trying to take advantage of you. Just be very cautious who you give your information to. And there's going to be a lot of fake GoFundMe. And would you like to donate to Western North Carolina? You know, if it's Samaritan's Purse, go to Samaritan's Purse website. If you want to donate money, that would be the ones I would tell you about, because not only are they going to rescue them, feed them, clean them, they're going to feed them the word of Jesus Christ, which is the only thing that we really need.
Sheriff, we appreciate you taking time to hop on with us. Really means a lot. And stay safe out there. All your deputies and those working under, we appreciate them as well.
Thank you, my friend.
Diesel, I'm sure I'll get pushback on this, but that's the reason I'm bringing this up. I've had to eat some crow when it comes to Colorado. Just a few weeks ago on this very program, I said, look, I don't think Colorado will be much better than they were last year. Well, they're currently 4-1. And after what they did Saturday, just blowing the doors off of Central Florida, 48-21. I'm impressed. I'm eating crow. And Diesel, I'm here today to tell you that Colorado may have a path to the college football playoff.
Seriously.
Look,
I know that your process for the upset picks challenge is just going to be just pick Colorado every week. What are you going to do if Colorado's a favorite? Huh? What are you going to do then? You're going to pick against Colorado just to pick the game Colorado's playing in?
Don't be a favorite. I don't think they'll be a favorite against Kansas State. They will be against Arizona and Cincinnati and Texas Tech. Don't know about Utah. They might not be against Kansas. They will be against Oklahoma State. So there will be a few games I'll still have remaining this season where I can pick them. But let's do this. Let's look at their schedule. Diesel, right now they're 4-1. We know that they lost to Nebraska earlier in this season, 28-10, second game of the year. They beat North Dakota State, lost to Nebraska, whooped Colorado State, beat Baylor, beat Central Florida. And when I say beat Central Florida, they whooped Central Florida. They have Kansas State. Well, they have a bye week this week, and then they have Kansas State the following week. They could win that game. I know Kansas State will probably be favored. I don't know. There's obviously no line on that game yet. However,
but they get them at home coming off the bye.
And you know who's not on this schedule? Like when I say they may have a serious path, they have Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, who's not the same Cincinnati team we saw 3-4 years ago, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. There's no Oregon on here. Right? I don't know that Utah is as good as we thought they were. They may be a little overrated. Diesel, if Colorado can finish the season with 2 losses or somehow end up in Arlington in the Big 12 championship game in Jerry's World, do you not then see a possible path for Dion and Colorado into the playoff?
I mean, yeah, it's possible if everything goes their way, which is what you're suggesting here. Look, they're still in pretty uncharted territory.
They are.
Colorado had a great start last year and then fell off. There's nothing that says that'll happen to them again this year. I mean, the reason why they fell off in such a big way last year is they just didn't have the depth to compete down the stretch with the back half of their conference schedule. And it's going to be tough down the road. I mean, they're playing a ranked Kansas State at home. Arizona is solid. They're not great, but they're solid. Mm-hmm. Cincinnati, easy game for them. At least it should be. Mm-hmm. Texas Tech, don't know much about them this year. Utah, tough game. Kansas, possibly tough game. Oklahoma State, possibly tough game. Now, they get a lot of their hardest games at home. Oklahoma State's in Boulder. Utah is in Boulder. Kansas State is in Boulder. So they're playing a lot of their toughest opponents at home this year. That should help.
It should help. Mm-hmm. I think so. I think that'll give them Diesel a very big advantage. I really do. I do think that Colorado's improved. I don't think they're going to have the same fall off like you mentioned, like we saw last year. I don't know what to make of Utah yet. I really don't. I don't think Cincinnati's a world beater. And Kansas State's an interesting team. I don't think Kansas State is a juggernaut, right? They're a good football team. But when you look at Kansas State this season, let me see. I'm pulling up their schedule here. They are 4-1. Their only loss is to BYU, 38-9. They've had wins over Oklahoma State, Arizona, Tulane, and UT Martin. No quality wins other than maybe you consider Oklahoma State a quality win. But then again, you could argue that, right? So I don't know that we just don't know what to make of Kansas State. And I don't know what that line will be. But when you talk about the upset picks challenge, I'll tell you this, Diesel, it may not be 3 points. It may not be but 4 points. next Saturday after Colorado's bye. However, if you tell me right now that Colorado is a dog to to Kansas State, I 110% coming off of a bye will take them. Coming off of a bye.
That's not bad. I mean,
no.
Shadur's playing great. Travis Hunter's playing great. They're
2-0
in the conference.
In that game?
Against Kansas State?
They're 4-1. Kansas State is. Both teams 1 loss. Who do you think Vegas will have?
Oh, man. I think Vegas, if you believe that Vegas sets a line specifically to manipulate the bettors, the opening line, I think they'll probably set the opening line as a Kansas State favorite by 2. K-State favorite on the road by 2, which they know full well that they're going to get a ton of money coming in on Colorado to win that football game.
I'm with you. I think they'll be favored. I don't know by how many again, it's just tough to tell when they've only beaten UT Martin, Tulane, Arizona. Arizona, I don't really consider Arizona, a good win. They got smoked by BYU. And how good is BYU, right? So, again, I know they had a good win over Oklahoma State, but I'm telling you, if it's more than 5, sign me up. Sign me up.
I mean, I think there's a chance, right? I mean, and like I said, there's just so many question marks with this team and with their depth. Are we going to see a repeat of what happened last year? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably finish this season somewhere around 7-5, 8-4. It would be my guess.
Well, let me ask you this question. Let me tell you, Diesel, hypothetically here. Hypothetically, Colorado makes the playoff, okay? If I told you that Deion Sanders and Colorado made the playoffs, would that be considered one of the greatest coaching jobs in modern era?
I think it would. I mean, that's coach of the year territory.
Really, I'm not putting him up there with Saban because Saban's did it for so long. But Diesel, what if that were to happen? What other coach has done anything similar, bringing a program like Colorado out of the grave?
Are both Shadur and Shiloh draft bound this year? I know Shadur is.
I don't know about Shiloh.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like how long will Deion stay around Colorado after his boys are gone?
Yeah.
Does he fall in love with Colorado and decide to stay? I mean, that if he gets Colorado in a position where they're sniffing, let's just pretend for a second they play for the Big 12 championship. Schools are going to be throwing ridiculous offers at him. They're going to want
Florida State?
Yeah. They're going to want him to repeat what he did at Colorado at Florida State. And I mean, his sons are good, but he's going to be able to recruit probably even better players than his sons at Florida State or at wherever 100%. It is, whoever throws him the money, right? Whoever is interested in creating that kind of circus. And Florida State ought to be. They really, really ought to be. I would have to imagine that the conversation has been had in Tallahassee. Hey, if Mike Norvell has another mediocre season or bad season next year, we're throwing the bag.
Well, that's the question. Like, do you believe it's worth, if you're Deion, do you believe it's worth staying there? And I don't know what kind of tampering may or may not be happening, Diesel, in terms of back channel conversations, right? But like if you said to Deion, hey, we've got to let Mike Norvell have one more year after this. We can't fire him now. So if you can come back to Colorado, or if you can go back to Colorado in 2025, give him one more season there. We know you won't have Shador. We know you won't have Shiloh. Shiloh, by the way, is a grad student, Diesel. So, yeah, he's eligible for the draft. But I don't know if back channeling exists between Deion and Florida State, but you would be led to believe that if the timing worked out, and right, we talked about this before, timing is big for hires, right? Whether it's, getting a job at a local radio station or getting one of the biggest jobs in college football or even in the NFL, timing is very, very critical. If the timing's not right, maybe we never see Deion at Florida State. However, if the timing is right, for both parties, you would feel like, even though it may be a risky hire, you would feel like Florida State would have to jump at that opportunity.
I mean, you got to feel like Deion's personality can continue to bring in the highest profile players. It's entirely possible, Cole, that what he's captured with Shedeur and Travis Hunter is the best duo of athletes he'll ever have.
Yeah.
And every coach has that. I mean, look at Jimbo. He won a national championship at Florida State because of Jameis.
Right.
And once he didn't have Jameis anymore, he still had all the resources in the world. He still had a huge profile when he was still at Florida State. When he went to Texas A&M, he had everything he could possibly want.
Sure.
To get the best of the best players.
I'll get to a text and a message from Madcraft in a second, but one thing I will say on your Travis Hunter point, you remember, was it 2 weeks ago when you brought up the conversation about Heisman being about quarterbacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had that conversation, and I'll tell you this. I said that day, I believe the Heisman Trophy award should favor the quarterbacks, and I still believe that, Diesel. However, I'll tell you this, today, October the 1st, Travis Hunter, he's got to be in Heisman contention.
He ought to be.
He's got to be in New York. Like, he's got to be. The season that he's having is nothing but spectacular.
So a lot has changed since then.
Okay.
I remember at the time, Travis Hunter was somewhere in the range of 13th in the rankings.
Yeah, it was low
of odds to win the Heisman Trophy. These are the current rankings as listed on FanDuel.
Okay.
Travis Hunter has the second best odds to win the Heisman.
Second?
Behind Jalen Milroe.
Wow.
This goes Jalen Milroe, Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Ashton Genty, Dylan Gabriel, Nico Yamalieva, Quinn Ewers.
That changed quick, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
13 to second?
13 to second. And that was the point I was trying to make is this trophy the Heisman has turned into the best a quarterback on the best team in college football.
Yeah.
And usually that's one of the best quarterbacks in college football, top 3, right? Your team's not going to the playoffs. Your team's not getting all the attention if you're not an elite quarterback. But you're trying to tell me that Travis Hunter is not more impactful to his team than Quinn Ewers is?
No,
I'm Jalen Milroe.
I can't argue with you right now.
for a guy that plays a bunch of snaps, both sides of the football, is elite at both sides of the football. Sure, he doesn't touch the ball every single time, but elite corners cause opposing quarterbacks to not throw in their direction. So they are affecting every play, even if they're not being thrown at.
Matt and Greer says, gotta hate it when your fantasy team would beat any other team than the one you played against. Rest in peace, the Greer Grimace. Diesel on the YouTube stream, Madcraft. How about this? Madcraft says, what about the Gamecocks? Talking about prime time.
Oh, man, that would be fantastic.
Him and Don Staley would be a powerful duo in recruiting overall, says Madcraft.
Could you imagine the personality power in this state if you had Don Staley, Deion Sanders, and Dabo Swinney, the 3Ds of South Carolina?
Great.
That would be
great.
Beautiful.
Oh, God. The best radio ever.
That would be beautiful.
Make our job easy, right?
Ray Tanner, make that the last thing you do before you leave. But that means they would have to fire Shane Beamer. Are you Gamecock fans willing to fire Shane Beamer to get Deion Sanders? Would you even entertain that notion? That might be worth bringing up tomorrow and having a deeper discussion about that.
Be interesting for sure.
Yeah. When we come back, Cole, we'll take a look at our daily wires one last time. Wrap it up on the Fan Upstate. Side note for you Tolos who are expecting to see us at Ingles Markets tomorrow, we are not going to be at Ingles Markets. Obviously, with everything going on with the Hurricane Helene efforts, we are keeping things here close to the radio station, not heading out, not potentially taking away resources from those who really, really need it. So we're going to be here doing the show. We're going to make up events in the future. Hopefully 2 weeks from tomorrow, we'll be back out on the road at Ingles Markets. By then, hopefully everybody is restored and we're back out.
By the way, Diesel, Ruby shared a post today on Facebook of their headquarters. It's corporate office flooded, man. It's sad. So we love Ingles. We talk about them all the time. And, when they open, I know the Ingles beside me is open. It's open. So it's good right now. A lot of them still are not, right? There's Ingles up toward Black Mountain, Nashville that are suffering very badly. But when they are open, for all the commercials we do, please support Ingles when they do get back open.
Let's get to our daily wires, Cole. This is the buzz happening around the sports world. Sorry, I did that as you were taking a drink of water.
I should have had a water buzz.
Yeah.
That'd have been good.
The Buffalo Bills' Von Miller has been suspended for 4 weeks for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. The suspension supposedly stems, though we haven't got any clarification from the NFL on exactly why he's being suspended, but it supposedly stems from allegations that he assaulted his pregnant girlfriend in November 2023.
Ooh.
He will be eligible for reinstatement following their Week 8 games. So going into Week 9, Von Miller may be back out on the field.
If it's true, my opinion, Cole's opinion, he should never play again. That's Cole's opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL, they're so wishy-washy on their enforcement of conduct. Sometimes it'll be a slap on the wrist. Sometimes it'll be, basically a public beheading. It's really hard.
I don't understand that. There should be a black and white rule. If you put your hands on a woman, you have no NFL career. How hard is that? It's as simple as that. You're done.
White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf addressed the team's embarrassing season. They lost 121 games this year. That is a Major League Baseball record. He wrote a letter to fans, which, come on, Jerry, it's 2024. What are you writing letters to fans? Make a video. Make a TikTok, would you? He said, quote, "By all measures, our on-field performance this season was a failure. As the leader of this organization, that is my ultimate responsibility. There are no excuses." It's a long letter. If you want to read a really old rich dude talk about why his team sucks so much, please go find it. I think it's fascinating for an owner to take ownership in that way, right? To say it's ultimately my responsibility. Cole, we didn't get a chance to get deep into this story earlier, but former Jags employer Amit Patel stole more than $22 million from the franchise. First of all, how do you steal $22 million from a business without them noticing?
That's a lot.
I can't figure that out.
Money, buddy.
But he just sued FanDuel, claiming that the sportsbook exploited his gambling addiction and intentionally ignored his signs of problem gambling. I mean, what level of ludicrous is this for you?
Is
1
it like
to 10?
A million?
It's a million.
I just want to know: is he serious? Like, come on,
he's trying. He's trying to say
your fault.
It's not my fault that I gambled $20 million on FanDuel. It's FanDuel's fault for not noticing that I gambled $20 million on your platform.
That's
and
so
saying,
freaking
maybe
funny,
you have a problem. Maybe we should get you some help. I mean, passing the buck, right?
It's fantastic.
Unbelievable. The New York Mets are down 3-4 to the Milwaukee Brewers, bottom of the fourth in the wild card round. The Braves will play tonight at 8:20.
8:20. Let's go, Braves! But I don't.
Are you willing to talk about it now that you've gotten into the playoffs?
No, I don't think so. I think they'll lose.
Still scared of it?
I think they'll lose.
Talk again tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. I pulled